Live. All right. It's Jared McDonald here. I've got an amazing guest today. I think some of you guys will recognise him. Some of you will be scratching your head wondering, Smoke and Beds BBQ, what's going on here? Look, guys, if you've ever been down to your local butcher when you first got into barbecuing and you had heard all about briskets and cooking briskets low and slow, so you go down and you go, hey, bud, I'm Jared, whatever, I'm Steve. And can you, look, I want to cook a brisket. And he goes, yeah, I've got the perfect brisket. I've got this beautiful brisket, been hanging up in my fridge for a month or week or whatever. And then he comes back and he gives you this package and you go, sweet. You go home and you unroll it and it's got bones in it and it's about that thick. You cook it up and it's tight as, because neither you knew what you wanted nor did the butcher. Then go ahead and just hit that like button and let us know in the comments. The reason why I brought that up is because that was my first experience. I went to the butcher, local butcher to me, asked for a brisket, and he came back with the navel end of the brisket, bones all through it. It was about yay thick and no meat on it. And needless to say, it was a disaster. And I don't even think we ate it. I mean, I tried to feed it, I think, to the neighbour's dog, and I think even the dog rejected it. It was pretty leathery from my recollection. And the reason I bring that up too is because we've got a real live butcher in the house. I wanted to introduce Mr. The Aussie butcher. Well, you don't really even need an introduction, do you, Reuben? It's Reuben from the Aussie butcher, New Lynn.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, people just sort of go by Reuben's. I mean, they know that I'm at Aussie butcher, New Lynn.
Now, does anyone else call you Uncle Reuben besides me?
If they're not my nephews and nieces, no, you're the only one that calls me.
Righto. So, I mean, look, guys out there, for those of you who don't know, why have we got a butcher on the show today? Well, because Reuben, from my estimation, was basically, I think you were one of the very first major, like, big butchers to get right behind barbecue. And would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think it came from that first Meatstock back. What year was
2017?
That?
Yep.
2017, and there's a whole couple of these New Zealand teams that were sort of going around, and these guys are Daniel White and Lucas.
Yep.
Whatever Lucas's last name is.
What is his last name? The problem is my kid's learning Lucas Graham, 7 days or whatever on the piano, and that's all I can think is Lucas Graham, but it's Lucas Armstrong.
Yeah. Slightly different from the other Armstrong that we know. They came over here and showed me how to do competition pork ribs. So a sort of different sort of style of cutting, because before, at that stage, there was no imported pork ribs into the New Zealand market of the
there was just spears, eh? Remember those
and we still sell heaps of those shiners.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We sell probably just as many of those, nearly. To show blogs.
So can I just ask, just to backtrack a little bit, so was that, I mean, were you aware of American Low and Slow before those guys showed up to your shop?
Not like, it was funny because I used to have this this friend that we used to sort of talk about and talk with, like, barbecue, and this is like years before I even saw any of these big barbecues, and we were just like, he was a chef and saying, look at these barbecues online, we're looking at ones in America, some of these big things that these guys have got now, and we hadn't seen it. It might have been Michael's that we sort of first came across online.
Michael down in Tauranga, Big Mike.
Yeah.
Big Mike Jeffries, I believe, and I have talked to him this week about getting him on the show, but I would love to know in the comments, guys, if there's anyone else out there that was sort of ahead of Michael from Big Smoke in Tauranga, Big Smoke Barbecue, because I have a firm belief that he was the first major pitmaster, big real pitmaster in New Zealand.
Yeah, and I think
commercially doing it in.
There wasn't any restaurants at that stage that was sort of, I think, you might have had that first. Moonshine's might have been the first one with old, I don't know, Crazy Horse, whatever.
Yeah, what was his name? I forget his name, but I know the guy. I believe he's done, I believe he's doing baby food. No, I'm pretty sure I was into it before him, but he may have been the first restaurant. I remember meeting him up in Auckland after I'd been barbecuing for a couple of years, and he was getting into it, and he had a brand new Yoda barbecue. I believe it got stolen. I don't know if he ever tracked it down, but yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I forget his name. He did for those guys. He did the sort of the pork belly glued to a piece of beef video. It was a tomahawk with pork belly wrapped around it. Was I forget the guy's name? Skips my head.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think it's yeah. Anyway, we're going to spend the whole show now trying to work out it. I think his surname was Clark, maybe. I don't know. So Dan and Lucas just contacted you out of the blue. I mean, why did they come to you? Were they recommended by someone, or?
I think someone had sort of just pointed them in the direction. It might have been Jay, because I'd contacted Jay when I heard about this meat stock. When I first heard about it being in Sydney, and
Really?
one of my
cool.
We thought of going over there, but it was sort of like, I think it fell on Valentine's Day, and I don't know, I'd get shot probably going.
Yeah, you're a sucker for romance, aren't you?
But so then when it came over here, and I contacted Jake and sort of said, hey, I want to be a part of this, and that's sort of how it sort of led on, that we'd sort of do things like that.
And so Jay you think Jay might have just said, hey, Lucas and these guys, maybe this butcher or that butcher, but
yeah,
was there any New Zealand teams that you were sort of behind or had worked with, or?
I think Matt, I was like behind like Matt from Rum and Q and
Melville, yeah, cool.
Met Each Smoke from the get-go, like those guys have with Derek.
Derek, yep,
Derek,
and, Derek and Forbes, yep.
Forbes.
So I didn't realise, maybe I could confirm with Derek, because we are good mates. I don't know if he, I wasn't sure if he competed in the original meat stock, but maybe it doesn't, I guess it's inconsequential.
Yeah. So those sort of teams, and I think, what was it? Was it 30 teams? Maybe.
Yeah, probably about 30. I mean, I've said in other videos, I was blown away that there was all these other pitmasters. I was like, where do you guys come from? I thought I was like one of three.
And yeah, and there's some funny stories when you're walking around and see these briskets, and as you sort of say, some guys turn out with brisket, and it's like, whoa. But I mean, we were all new to it. I mean, I still. Yeah.
I mean, as a butcher, obviously these Americans cuts, I mean, we've got them in, obviously, breaking down whole animals, we have them, but how much of an impact, like how much adjustment, like did you need to go on YouTube and look exactly what we're talking about?
I do.
You were probably familiar with the animal, but like, what are these guys talking about?
Like the name, like Boston butt, it was like, what the hell's a Boston butt? You know, like butt, you would just think bum, but butt's not. It's the shoulder.
Yeah, I remember another funny one. First time I went to the same butcher, and I don't buy from that butcher anymore because I feel like he tucked me a couple of times. But he sold me a pork butt. I asked for a pork butt thinking you'd know, and of course I didn't know what the hell it was. And he sold me the actual ass of a pig, like an actual around the actual asshole. So it was. And I cooked it, and I you know, I mean, it's just pork rump, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it tasted all right. Yeah. Not obviously when they gut it, they take out the what do they Māoris call it, the tero. They take that out. So.
Yeah, we sell those. It's pretty hard to get at the moment. But yeah, I just Google it. Like just this week on Wednesday, guy came in and said, "Hey, can you get I'll see if you know what it is, the Devon steak."
Someone asked you that.
Yeah. Can you get Devon steak?
Is that a British term for it, or what is that?
American. And I was like, what's that? I was like, Googling, and I had to search some other customers, and I said, look, come in next week and I'll be able to do it for you. I said, the animals are the same. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and what it is actually the chuck. So you get a whole chuck, and you pull off the top muscle, which comes down from the Scotch fillet from when you cut that off. And you peel that back, and it's the fat sort of part of the chuck. So if you see a chuck steak and it's the big meaty part, you trim everything off, and that is called the Devon steak. So I'm going to make a new code, and I'll put that out in the shop, and then we'll see. So yeah.
So there has been, and this is just for my own curiosity, and I think maybe some of the guys might be interested too. So there has been a bit of a learning curve for the butcher as much as the pitmaster.
Oh, like majorly. Majorly, you're still going to butcher shops that don't get behind it, and not interested in doing it because, truth be told, some of them are the pitmasters can be like sort of
drama queens. We'll get into that, but I just want to I got one more question about the learning curve in terms of a butcher was the product availability. Like I've worked hard with some of the big importers to try and bring in the right product because to be frank, our beef, for example, is phenomenal flavored, but just we don't process it the same way the rest of the world do. So
I think it's just size,
and we don't, So
yeah.
So how's that changed or impact on your business?
It's definitely like it's only in the last couple of weeks I've actually started selling an imported brisket because I was really trying, not to. But we don't. All my beef that we get into the shop on carcass, I don't sell any of that as whole brisket. I just put it in the sausages.
And now is that just marbling, right? I mean, or just
no, it's the
size.
Size wise, because we buy pretty much around that 200 kilo body mark. Well, those briskets that are 7-8 kilos, that's off 400 kilo bodies.
Dude, I've cooked a 12 kilogram brisket, bro. I mean, that thing must be off like a 600-700 kilogram animal, right?
It'd be just massive. Like you'd be like your ribeyes would be like this. You would be the size your dinner plate. You wouldn't be able to eat one.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of the main reason. And being an export country, that we export 90% of all our beef, or 85 to 90, that's the problem. And all the big export stuff goes overseas. So we probably are producing some of the primo stuff.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get hold of.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with I haven't seen every damn meat guy, but I feel like I have, and it's hard to make an argument to do a few briskets for a few drama queen pitmasters when you've got massive demand in overseas markets for what you've been doing for years, right? So what if it ain't broke, then don't fix it,
Yeah, like they're still peeling them off, and they'll sell 40-foot containers full. It's paid before it leaves here.
Yeah.
They're trying to deal with the New Zealand market, New Zealand butchers that want 2 cartons of this and 3 cartons. And then pay them for like a month. It's like, well, why do they want to bother doing it? Which is hard, and that's why you build those relationships. Like your pitmaster with your butcher, and we build it with our suppliers.
But when I first started cooking imported meat, and I believe that was mostly in Meatstock 2018 on, I used to cop a lot of flack from a wide range of people that, obviously I do the live show and that at Meatstock, and used to cop a lot of flack from the public, from other pitmasters about buying Kiwi pork and Kiwi, I've always cooked Kiwi lamb because I do believe that our lamb is the best and we do lead the market in the world in terms of lamb and processing lamb. And shout out to Alliance who do a freaking great product through Pure South. But, I used to cop a huge amount of flack from guys saying, oh, you got to buy Kiwi made and all that. You're not supporting our butchers or our economy. And I've reconciled that in the sense that the butcher's not giving me what I actually want. Like I wouldn't buy a Ford Falcon if I wanted a Commodore or vice versa. And second, it's okay because that's all exported. So it's not like they're going hungry because I'm not buying their product.
No.
So, so you mentioned you're doing an imported brisket. So what brisket have you chosen to go with and pick up there?
Gone for ebony.
Ebony, yep. We've seen those on the market. Now, who's where are those coming from?
A liar, meat marketing. Jeff Putt, I think he calls himself. He's done a few YouTube videos called the Barbecue Butcher or something.
Okay.
So he brings in the Carrara. But
okay, so he'd be through Neat Meats and all that. Like they'll also be carrying that stock and yeah.
And the problem is, and the biggest problem is that everyone wants it. They want it, but they don't want to pay the dollar value. That is,
Well, that's drama queen pitmasters. We'll talk about that. It's funny because the first time, like when I was starting to get into imported products, and I was still, I'd only been to Aussie with a few barbecues. I hadn't really. I guess I was just putting my big toe in the water, and I had some briskets air freighted from Queensland, what they call a John D, and it comes in from the Queensland feedlot, and it was a 300-day premium Angus, blah blah blah. I ended up paying $400 for one brisket. So I mean, by the time you pay the air freight and all that, it gets expensive, and I had to buy 3 of them, so it was $1,200 for 3 briskets. I can't even remember. I know we used one. I think we used 2 of them at a comp. I'm not sure what happened to the third one. But I was like, man, I was shaking after paying the bill for that. But it's funny. It's a funny world. We want to pay $8.99 a kilo, but we want 7 score Angus, or whatever,
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. It's like you've got this this product that we can get, and that's why I say the suppliers. If you keep on giving it to this stuff too, like sponsoring a barbecue team and giving it to them, or giving it to them at the same price that the butcher gets it, you just run your product to the ground straight away. Because for us to put our margin, we have to pay our staff and pay all the bills and all that. So there's a margin. Like the less money is on all my low and slow stuff. I don't have full margin on that stuff compared to other things because it costs so much to buy in.
Yeah, it is. We just got in Prairie Fresh ribs, from America. We've got briskets coming in from Australia. We've got briskets coming in from Snake River Farms in America.
Where's your ribs from? What ribs are they?
The Prairie Fresh. So my teammate Grant Fitzgerald, who cooks on the More Better Barbecue team, there it is, Derek, More Better Barbecue. Yeah. He works for a meat importer, and you know the company, but I don't want to mention it on air because they end up getting a lot of calls from pitmasters, and that's not their business. So I asked, he called me back in September when I was at the Royal with the Smoke Face Grillers, and said, hey, can you keep an eye out for a rib supplier over there, because we're looking at bringing in a rib from America. And I had a look, and they do Smithfield, and they do a brand called Compart, which is like a more of a boutique specialized product that's specifically targeted at pitmasters. And then they had these Prairie Fresh ribs. So I gave them all the info and said, I think that those Prairie Fresh ones might be the go. So, I mean, that was way back in September, and they've only just landed last week and cleared customs and what on. And naturally, you have to buy a 40-footer of them and pre-order and pay up front and all that. So there's just a huge amount of cost involved in importing meat, right? And I got to say, I cooked those up on Friday, and they were awesome. So I think it was worth it, and I'm really hoping.
In all honesty, like if you say, I mean, that's the thing. Like you get all these guys that'll go, "Oh my god, like which tar ribs are this?" and or
Swifties or
Swifties. And the reality is, if you find it, whoever they're sponsored by, they're the ones that are singing from the treetops.
Yeah, of course.
But did you, like, if you go taste comparison, what did you think of those ones compared to?
All right, so I never BS about my product that I work with. I'd never lie to try and sell something. Like, I'm not going to give up my. I'm not going to sell my integrity for $1.99 or a rack of ribs or whatever. I just tend to look at the options, and I tend to give feedback based on my observations. And obviously, you put your best foot forward. I mean, there's no perfect product, so my assessment is look. I think there's 4 racks of ribs available right now, and you might be able to think. I mean, sorry, 4 racks that pitmasters use, not including like the Spain or the ones that we don't use. But there's basically Swift Premium. There's Wichita. There is a Dubreton, which is that's ending. Those are from Canada. There is a Prairie Fresh, and there is one other called a Amity, which now, and I've done, like when it comes to competing, obviously I want the best product. I don't really care at the end of the day whether I'm, I don't have a meat sponsor in terms of ribs, so I just buy the best that there is, right? And my honest opinion of the matter is, and this is not really what I normally get to in the show, but you're asking, is I believe the best tasting, I believe up until now, the best tasting rib has either been, I believe the Dubreton, but the problem with the Dubreton is it wasn't that widely available, and it was pretty hard to identify. The retail packaging on it was crap. I think it's on par probably with Wichita. The Amities are pretty average. They're probably, they're not my favorite, let's put it that way. And the Swifts are a really nice rib. The flavor's not as present as Wichita and Dubreton, but they're nice and thick. But I just have some reservations about the Swift because of the belly seam on there. We use them at Cumu, and great product, guys. And I'm not trying say you shouldn't use the product at all. But I just found that there's that belly seam on there, and you have to bin it in order to.
I think, like, as a butcher's, if you look at it, the Swift ribs is a butcher's thing, and you look at the price. If you're taking the Swift ribs home to cook for your family, and then you're just doing that, they are awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
For comp style, I think, and this is not going on any taste or anything like this, just sort of more dollar value when you sort of look at it. When you look at them, you do have to do a little bit more trimming, and you'd need to sort of square them up so they're sort of like all.
What's that? The Swifties?
The sweet.
Yeah, the Swifts, in terms of the
most, you have to take those little bit of knobs. Sometimes they're just a little bit hard. The Wichitas are like, they're very
yeah. Same with the Dubretons. They're like a rectangle from, I don't know how they cut them, whether it's a robot, but they all just a rectangle.
The difference of Wichita is that that's a packing house, and this is what I've sort of learned.
Yeah.
They're buying the ribs or getting the ribs from wherever they get them, and they're sawing them. Where Swift ribs are coming straight off the pigs. That's the way they've cut, and then they're put into, and they're done. But I've actually got a carton of those ones, and I looked at them tonight.
What, the Prairie Fresh?
Prairie Fresh.
Yeah.
What's
your opinion on the face value of them?
I just literally just took it out of the freezer, looked at it, and I thought, right, I'll defrost one. I've got one defrosting, and I'll have a look at it.
Look, I don't want to, people know that I'm a hardcore competitor, right? And I will tell you, at the next comp that I cook, if it's not Napier, I will be cooking the Prairie Fresh. No one's paying me jack all to say that. Like, I paid for my ribs. I buy all my product for barbecue contests, the briskets, ribs, and all that. We buy all that. And nobody's paying me to say nothing. And I could have easily just told them to bring in Smithfields or whatever. They went on based on my recommendation. And I really like the flavor. And they just my one critique of them is that they're not as consistently cut as something like a Wichita or a Dubreton. Like, those are like, I don't know whether they use a computer or what. They're more of a full rack, like a Swift size, where it's a bit more of the spear on there. But there's no reason you couldn't run a bandsaw around them. And then, but they are real nice and meaty. But the flavor is the thing that got me. The flavor's phenomenal. They've got great marbling, and they market it as Swift. They market it as Prairie Fresh Natural. I don't even know what natural means in America.
It's funny because I went onto their website and looked all through their products on the website.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, and it's like, they say that
very vague.
100% gluten free.
Yeah. Gluten free.
Pork rib, it is gluten free.
Look, I don't know what I did the same because I wanted to know what the word natural meant. I still don't know what it means. But look, I don't care too. At the end of the day, judges don't know, and for all the crap we put into comp barbecue, if they knew half of it, they wouldn't eat it anyway.
No. And that's the play on words is that saying that natural, because there's been certain words are not
allowed to be used.
Well, not allowed to use, but obviously no one's like, you can't just say slap on free range. But as soon as you hear natural, you go,
oh, that's free range. Yeah. The pig sounds like it's just loving life with sunglasses in the sun and its sty,
Yeah.
But, look, I don't know, and I don't want to. I don't. At the end of the day, I'm looking at quality and price. And for me, it's a good looking rib anyway. Now, whether it'll stay that way, look, I've only gotten into a couple of cartons so far. Whether it's still going to be good after the 500th rack, goes through the market, I don't know how consistent their butchering is. Yeah. But at this point, I've got to say I'm pretty impressed. And again, nobody's paying me. I haven't told you where to buy them or anything. They seem to be really good.
Yeah.
And then they're not. I went to Gilmore's, and they're not any more expensive than any other flipping rack. So it's not like
they're actually cheaper.
Okay, well there you go. So cheaper and better. Hey, more better. I like that. Anyway, moving on from ribs. So can I just ask, Reuben, a bit of advertising for you? Are you going to be stocking those ribs, or are you just trying them out for your own? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you heard it first, guys. Look, I was the first person in the country to try these ribs because I worked with the buyer to make a recommendation, blah, blah, blah. So I bought my first carton. Well, Fitzy bought the first carton down to Hamilton as soon as they cleared customs. We cooked them up, and I got to say, I'm really happy. So get your ass on down to Aussie Butcher New Lynn, or wherever else you're buying them from. I don't know, but we guarantee Reuben's got them. And give it a whirl, and let me know in the comments what you think. Look, give me your own opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Just tell me what you think and whether you like them. And I guess the proof will shortly be in the pudding, because it's interesting. But look, and again, shout out to the guys doing Swift, and shout out to the guys bringing Wichita. Look, we love your product. You guys have done miracles for us in New Zealand in terms of ribs. I remember when all I could get was the Snellman, is it? Snellman? From Spain, the shiners, the full spear shiners. That was all I could get, man. I cooked 10,000 racks of those things. So I know all about those. And we're really fortunate that companies in New Zealand, the importers, have seen the value in what we want. And I'm not here to run down anyone's product for sure.
Like 2018 Meatstock, there still wasn't St. Louis imported ribs in that. And I did 22 or 23 pigs that we bought in, like over 75 kilos, just to do. We supplied 23 of the barbecue teams for their rib. And it was amazing. Yeah.
So just that's really interesting. Like, and I want to just reiterate, I got Reuben on today because I really feel like Reuben's made a huge contribution to barbecue. And, you know, you're not the kind of guy that blows your own horn, but I just want to expose the kind of contribution you've made. And we're going to just talk through some of the other retail things that you have done to support barbecue. But how hard was it to get those big pigs? Because from what I understood in New Zealand, we're sort of 45 to 55 kilos for the average weight of a pig going to slaughter.
Oh, that's the small ones. Like most of the ones that come to that going through, like they are getting slightly bigger, but we aim for 65 to 70 for ones that we're cutting chops. And if we're wanting hams and that, you're wanting slightly bigger. But the problem is if the hams, if your pork legs get too big and you get a ham, that leg that weighs like 9 kilos or 10 kilos, and then by the time you make that as a ham, like that's the whole problem, is that all of a sudden you've got this ham that's going to be $160, $170.
Yeah.
And that's just a lot of money. So that's sort of why you want the animal to sort of grow these big ribs, but then a small ass. And
yeah. All right. Anyway, we're going to keep it clean because I don't want to get taken off YouTube, but we'll let you imagine what we're thinking right now at home.
Yeah. But like big hind. And but yeah, these when we bought all those pigs in to get it, like you're looking at a 75 kilo pig, and we were ending up with 2.6 to 2.8 kilos of rib. That's what we were sacrificing. So then we'd have to find use for all those other products.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
We're lucky we can make your bacon. So when you go into your local butcher, your small butcher, or
your local,
local, and you ask them, I want these New Zealand ribs and that, and I would love to be able to do it like all New Zealand, but you can't. Like you can't. It destroys the pork belly, and it destroys your it does.
Hey, look, I mean, the reality is right now in New Zealand, thanks to chefs like Jamie Oliver and so forth, pork belly is still the hottest cut off the pig, and you're paying more now for pork belly than you are ribs. So a butcher has to give priority to the belly over the ribs.
So to buy ribs in, it costs me more to buy ribs in than it does cost to buy pork belly, but it costs more to buy pork belly than anything. So on that, yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know if you've looked at your invoices lately, but I believe that there's pretty much parity between pork belly and ribs right now in the market because I don't know, something's strange has happened to pork belly. It's just gone up through the roof.
Well, we all like streaky bacon. That's the problem.
We do. Americans put us on it. That's all they eat.
Oh yeah. So that's the problem there. It's like all of a sudden everyone wants streaky bacon. So then you're sort of stuck with either streaky bacon or pork belly, and
I've always been perplexed because going back to those Snellman ribs, which I'm sure you've come across them, you might not sell them in your store. Or just out of interest, what ribs have you sold? If you don't buy imported meat, what ribs have you had, or have you stocked spare ribs?
That's the only ones that we've always just sold. Like our philosophy is sell New Zealand's best, very best in New Zealand's meat. other than fresh New Zealand meat, other than pork ribs, because you
Okay,
can't.
so as the Snellmans, right, or the Spain ribs, right, the big spare ribs. Yeah. So I've always just felt a bit shafted from those because it's just bone and a teeny bit of meat, and so you're whatever you're
Well,
paying $10 a kilo, whatever it is, it's mostly for bone. I just
well, it's the way you the way you cut them. Like before these ribs came on, and I worked in a little shop, and it was your wife taking them, Mrs. Jones coming in the butcher shop, and we used to sell them in honey soy. And how do you cook these? I put them in the oven for 45 minutes on 180,
yeah.
and just give them a shake around. But it's like it's taking the care and when you cut them. So if you just cut the ribs down the middle and you don't go hard up against it on one side, you're going to end up with like 4 mil of meat on each, or 3 mil of meat on each side of the bone. But if you go hard up against one side, you're actually going to have a layer of meat across the top of the rib.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to sell them. I mean, it's just, they're still like having a norm. I mean, we made
People like a bone, that people like eating off a bone, man. There's something about that meat in there. It's just fantastically flavored.
The $5 a kilo cheaper than the Swifts. People just look at that dollar, the price. But the reality is, if you buy a decent salad, you're going to have more meat on it.
Yeah, for sure. But look, it's not within everyone's budget, and people get used to eating a certain style of food. Like whether your mum cooks your steak a certain way. People like my in-laws, they refuse to eat anything but well done. Doesn't matter how many times I show them the merits of even just a medium steak. That's just, they like it well done. That's what they've been bred on. That's what they've done for their whole life. And no son-in-law of theirs is about to change it.
Yeah,
so it's just like, well done it is.
Barbecue steak, the tenderized barbecue steak and the 50-pack pre-cooks. People say to us, why do you sell those pre-cooks? And it's like, well, because there are people out there that have got, whether they've got 3 kids or 6 kids or 8 kids, and it's all about getting protein on the plate at the end of the day. And a lot of people can't afford to pay for $16 a kilo for a nice, decent sausage, and that's why they're buying 50 sausages.
Sure.
So,
yeah, and a butcher's there to serve the community as a whole, not just a little pitmaster thing. I mean, I think if you were the pitmaster's butcher, you'd be broke because they're such a finicky and whingy lot. They and everything has to be cheap and free, and I'm famous on Instagram and all that. And like I've kind of stopped referring. Like I've got a lot of association with a lot of people in the meat industry, and I kind of steer them clear of working with teams in general because they just get nothing back for it at the end of the day. Like it's a very and guys who are listening, and you might be thinking I'm hating on the boys a little bit, but you've got to provide value for the industry, and if you don't do that, then the long-term viability of barbecuing is going to be in the toilet. You've got to provide value for them. And it comes back to selling meat for them. It doesn't even have to be the meat you're cooking. Just like how much meat do you sell? And I suspect, and I guess we can go into this, I suspect that you've probably made a net loss through barbecue in terms of the total cost. But I suspect that if you looked at the total benefit, including the cheaper retail cuts, like even though you've given ribs to say Rum and Q, and Rum and Q have put it out there and marketed it, you haven't sold more ribs as a consequence probably, but you have sold more of jalapeno cheddar links, which have lifted your profit, right? Or your return.
It's all roundabouts. But as I've got a couple of things, you end up with, well, I sort of joke, you end up with boats and batches from Mrs. Jones that comes in every week, spends $50, $60 on him, buys some mince and chicken breasts, picks up the odd special.
Yeah.
It's not from pitmasters.
I mean, in a way, Reuben, and you've never been to my restaurant, regrettably, but I'd love to have you down there. You're welcome to come down anytime and bring the kids. But we're in the same boat that, every pitmaster in New Zealand will go into Texas Pete's and walk out saying, I can cook better. Yeah, you can. That's cool, man. I cooked 25 briskets last week. I mean, I'd love to drop them off at your house anytime. And I'll tell you how much the customer's prepared to pay for them and all that. And there is some compromise in terms of there are very few people out there who are, driven by ideology when they go meat shopping. Most people are just, I've got a budget to spend, I've got a certain amount of food to feed my family, and I've got to work within that budget.
Yeah. That's entirely it, and it's all about that sort of that dollar spend, and that's all you can feed your family on. It's when you look at like you come in and you buy a short rib,
Don't even get me started.
might
Short
cost
ribs
you,
and tomahawks are going to be my undoing.
it might cost you $90 for a short rib, but you're then going to spend $30 on charcoal, and it's just like it is an expensive style of cooking, like it really is. And that's what when they go into your restaurant and you say there might be a short rib burger or whatever, but I'd say you wouldn't have, you'd be mad to have short rib on your menu because God,
We actually don't, and because the economics don't work. I've looked at it 100 different ways to make short rib work on our menu, and there is no way that the economics on it work.
unless you look like you're a thieving.
Yeah, unless you're charging $100, which I just wouldn't sell many of them.
No.
I'd be able to cook 5, and to some extent with us, like you've got to be scalable. There's no point cooking 2 racks of ribs. You've got to cook 50 at a time or 100 or whatever it is, right? And anyone running a barbecue business will scale's the big key to
it.
Yeah. Much like a butcher shop. Ain't going to make one sausage. You're going to make 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is that you're making.
And it's also, it's not just about what you like. Like we sell sausages and like I just don't like this beef and blue cheese, man.
Bro, I love that. You got to just get your head around the blue cheese. That's all.
Oh, I love blue cheese. Oh, I'd eat a wheel of the stuff. But like this actual sausage, I'm not a great fan of it. But we sell so many of them. People love them. So it's like you can't just put out everything. Like you've probably got stuff on your menu that you like.
Oh, mate. Yeah.
But
for sure. It's it's not about it is for anyone out there who's contemplating. I think every barbecue team contemplates doing commercial barbecuing at some point. But it's not about you, it's what your customers, and like I've always said, as long as the vast majority of customers leave happy, I'm happy. You're always going to get some snobby nosed guy who reckons he knows how to cook better than you or whatever. And to that man, I would say, look, the circuit's there and I'm waiting for you. Anytime you're ready to compete against me, put my best forward and your best forward. I'd love to see you down there. But for the retail game, it's like, okay, well, anyone can talk a big game who's sitting in their car eating food. Like we're running a business. There's commercial realities to that business, and we do our best. That's all we do. You're all welcome to come to both our businesses anytime, but we're just here doing our best, trying to feed our families and all of that.
But like it's quite sort of interesting that you sort of see like you have different sort of people come in and they sort of look at this and, just the other day I had someone say, oh man, Reuben just charges so much. But it's like, man, if you looked at the prices, like the actual prices, we don't like the margins, you go and buy a pair of Nikes or something, the latest pair of Nikes out.
Bro.
If you still have 50% off and still make like twice as much money.
What's funny is I lived in China for 4 years. Not a lot of people know that. I lived in China for 4 years, me and my wife did. And we went to, as part of living in China, we went to the south of China where they make a lot of that crap. And you can go to wholesale markets in China, thousands of stores crammed into one area, and they got every kind of shoe you've ever seen on any shelf anywhere in the world. Okay, not the like made in USA or New Zealand ones, but every shoe manufactured there, they do it. And they have it there to either to show, look, you can buy this shoe, or to show that we can make it or source it for you, right? But they have this wholesale market where naturally customers go there and they want to take samples away. So they'll usually have samples in every shoe. So you can walk into a store, there'll be 100 pairs of Nike shoes, all the ones, the Air cushions and all that crap, the Air Jordans, all of those, and they're $25 for any shoe. Like me and my wife back probably 10 years ago, we flew down for the weekend. We bought one of those massive rolly suitcases and we bought like 30, 40 pairs of shoes back, and it cost us like flipping $500. It was ridiculous. And that's literally the scale that they're making these shoes at. They bring them into the country and then they charge $300 for them. And then you complain about us having to raise an animal, slaughter an animal, transport an animal, all while being supervised by the Ministry of Primary Industries. Heat it up, cook it, put 7, 8, 10 hours into cooking it, put it on a plate, and then you're like, man, this is no good. $25. It's like this
Yeah.
animal gave its life for that meal.
Yeah. No.
It's funny. Anyway, I'm starting to feel a bit of a negative vibe. I'm not trying to hate. I'm just trying to expose some of the commercial realities of running these type of businesses so that guys can be just maybe a little bit more empathetic next time they walk into their butcher or restaurant, and just, people, there's a reason why, people aren't working for low wages in our industries because we're greedy capitalists keeping all the money. It's because there's very low margins, and it's a volume game, and we do our best. We do our best to work within those. Now, a couple of things I wanted to talk to you. Well, you mentioned sausages, and we had the great saucy cook-off for Epic Brewing in November. Yeah. Can you tell me what that sausage was and what your philosophy was making it? Because I ate it, man. It was a phenomenally good sausage.
Yeah, that's our brisket and Jack Daniel's jalapeno cheese sausage. It just sort of came from Luke wanting to do a Jack Daniel's sausage, so we sort of put that together, and that's that's how we sort of came up with it. But actual using, on that competition we used Waikanae brisket to sort of try something a bit different, and it's
that's why they're good.
Yeah. So
so is it, just for those at home who have no idea about butchering like me, is it like a donut where you basically just put different fillings and it's the same batter being used for all products? Or is, like you mentioned Waikanae for that specific one, but at the store, are you actually saying, well, that's pork and that's beef and that one's brisket and that one's cheeks, and are you just going, here's all the trim, boom, and then now we're going to add jalapenos to this batch, and then we're going to add cheese to that one? And
like there's certain sausages that sort of need a high, where you can get away with a higher fat content, or you want a leaner, like a bratwurst. We quite often use like top side, so it's quite a lean. Then we'll put in might be put pork back fat with different sausages. Like if it's a brisket one. I never lie. That's the thing. Like wherever it's selling a turkey at Christmas time and it's frozen, I don't say, I'll defrost it. I don't say that's a fresh turkey. I'll say, look, it's a frozen turkey with defroster. So it's the same with sausages. The best analogy, people say, oh, you put scraps in this sawdust and all this kind of things. If you went and bought a piece of material, you put the pattern on it, square piece of material, put your pattern on it, cut your pattern out. The material that you chuck away that you don't need for your t-shirt or whatever you're making, it's no different it's the same piece of material. All you've done is cut out the pattern. So that's how I look at it. Like, so when you're making a sausage, you might have bits of chuck in there, might have, well, if you've got bad butchers, might have a piece of steak in there. But it sort of has all different bits and pieces. But quite often, say we're doing beef sausages, we'll just load up our big mincer and chuck in whether it's 50 kilos and go, right, we need 9 kilos for Worcester cracked pepper, we need 9 kilos for beef and blue cheese, and we'll just run it out on a scale, and that's how we do it. So it's just sort of, but if it's specific that it needs to be more leaner or chuck or something like that, then we'll put that run out separate.
Okay, so if you're doing sausage with your standard mix, if I can call it that, I don't know what you guys call it, but say it's your beef standard mix. How do you put 9 kilos of meat on the scales, and then do you add all the ingredients and put in a mixer, or do you?
So then 9 kilos of meat.
Yeah.
And it might be like the normal run of the mill sausage is 6 kilos of meat and 1 kilo of seasoning.
Okay.
Then you get into the premium ones, 9 kilos of meat to 1 kilo of seasoning. So there's less seasoning in the sausage.
Okay.
And then once you get up to the real continental ones, which are more expensive, that might be 16 kilos of meat to 400 grams.
Okay, so the seasoning that you're talking about is like the sausage milk you buy from Dunningham's, which has got some binders and other ingredients, right? You're not talking seasoning like a kilogram of rub chucked in.
No.
You're talking a sausage making composition that you
these people that are paid, like we're paid to be a butcher. These got food scientists. I mean, and we in different ones we'll add different things in, or we'll use a base pork and we'll add a base Maltese sausage, or a Toulouse, and then we'll add different things in, or if we want to add some mushrooms, the beef mushroom, or parmesan truffle. We use truffle sometimes.
Look, I love the creativity, and I think it's one of the real value adds that a local butcher can give you. I used to not a lot of people know this, and I actually just remembered I used to work for Husson's back when they were located in Hamilton, making sizzlers. Do you know the sizzler
Yeah,
sausages? Yeah,
great.
so
Well,
I grew up eating those, and I thought they were the bee's knees, right? And you know, I don't, when you're a kid, you like simple things. That's my defense.
yeah.
But anyway, it's you know, it's a lot of fat in those sausages, man.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to call sizzler a sausage.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I know that, and I know it's not in the sausage section in the supermarket. But I used to be the guy who would actually load up the meat. So they had a big cool room that you would load the meat up in, like big trolleys, and then you would put it through to the machines who would then load it on conveyor belts and so on. And so I used to actually make up the sizzlers and all that in the bulk meats on these big trolleys, and they were 20, 30 kilo from Greenlee and whatnot. And mate, there is a lot of fat and not much meat in a sizzler. Let me tell you that. It's a lot of fat. Probably, I reckon it's like 60, 70, even 80% fat.
Yeah, the MD, the manufacturer. We don't make those sausages.
Yeah. So like you've got quite a big range of sausages down at the store there. I mean, forgive me because I'm not a regular customer. I have been to your store once where I was going to visit Luke Sini, and I called in, but you weren't there, so I think I bought a Lift Plus, and just wanted to throw some coin for my visit, but you weren't there, and I didn't, I wasn't there to buy meat, so I didn't really have a good look.
We probably do like over 30 different
30
flavors.
different sausages.
Not all out at once, like on a bit of a
Okay, how many out at once on any given day?
Oh, definitely 15.
Holy cow, that's a lot of sausage action.
Yeah.
Holy damn. What a huge range.
Yeah.
And you're only like a local butcher. It's not like you're a big, like sausage house or something. Man, that's amazing.
No,
Good for you.
I suppose that's what we pride ourselves on, is our sausages. Like if someone complains about our sausages, which
you take it to heart a bit.
Very, very rare. It's like, I feel like you just stabbed me in the heart. So I want to know why. What was the problem? What was that? And then you come down to,
Hey, look, man, preference. I learned you get thick skin working in retail because, at the end of the day, it's just people's preferences. I was reading comments on Texas Pete's last night, just out of interest. Every now and then I'll go and review them. I don't read them all the time. But there's always, there's a couple things there. Joe Rogan has millions of followers, and he was talking on his show about whether he reads comments in the comment section, and he said, no, I don't. And he said, well, why not? And then they're like, because even if 1% of my followers are haters, that's 56,000 followers based on my subscription. So it's like, it's a lot of hate, So anyway, and I'm not, and some complaints are very valid and all that. I'm not belittling people who complain, but there was one guy who said our brisket, which hurt my heart. My brisket tasted like smoked bacon, which I don't know. Maybe you need to.
Yeah, we get some that's when we enter the sausage competition, and I'm yet to win the grand prize. Like that's probably I won New Zealand's best butcher, I won New Zealand's best ham, but I haven't won New Zealand's best sausage, which
plagued you.
Yeah, it does.
It's eluded you.
Yeah, and we've got pretty close, very close, with a lot of golds up on the wall. But when you read the judges' comments, and I've been a judge, and for different categories, but when we had this one, and it was just I said to them, how can you make this? It said it was a beef and mushroom sausage. We put beef stock in it.
Yeah.
So it tastes like a pork sausage. I'm like, how can a beef mushroom taste like a pork sausage? It's just,
yeah.
But right. I used to have thick skin, as you say, in retail, and you sort of take it on you.
Yeah, look, I mean, for a lot of people, and that's how I justify comments like the one that I mentioned. A lot of people, their experience with smoked food is limited to seafood or bacon hocks, right?
Yeah.
So when they eat brisket for the first time, the only thing that they have to be able to relate it to in terms of smoky is seafood or bacon. So I've had people say, it tastes fishy. I pride myself on a lot of things, and one of them is never putting seafood in my barbecue, right? So it's like, that I just put it down to psychology. If you really want to know what someone thinks, you got to check their sense of smell, because taste is highly relevant to sense of smell. And if people can't smell so well, and I don't know how you'd test that, maybe pop one out and see if they smell or something. I don't know. If they can smell real good, then they have a good sense of taste. If they don't, like if you're a smoker, where they're breathing in smoke all the time and that, like in terms of nicotine, cigarettes, sorry, they're not going to have a very good sense of taste. That's just a fact. I mean, you go watch Hell's Kitchen, and he'll tell you that. Gordon Ramsay will tell you that smokers don't have very good sense of taste. So you put it down to that. So if I read a comment where someone says it's a porky flavored beef sausage, I go, that must be a smoker.
Yeah, that probably would. But yeah.
Otherwise, it'll break my heart, break my little heart. Now, I was surprised when I went into your shop. Yeah, you've got quite a big shop there. And it's only for those who've never been out. It's at what is it, New Lynn, which is West Auckland, I guess, is it?
Yeah.
Right. And I've only ever been out there once, and like it was like a whole new experience to me being from Hamilton. But so he's like in a little block of shops, maybe 4 or 5 shops in there, and he's like on the end, the big bad butcher. It looks like you've combined 2 shops into one. Is that?
Yep. No, we had for quite a few years. I played game of chess with the local $2 shop.
Right. Nice.
You
eventually won the game.
Well, no, he won. I gave him $100,000, and he gave me the keys and took his shelves and
how long ago was that?
2017 we opened up shop. So
okay, so it's a recent expansion.
Yeah, so I mean, what it's like with the councils and expanding. It's we won't go into that, but it's just anyway. So it took a while for us to get open.
It's bizarre, but yeah, I do know that because I've opened a restaurant and a commercial kitchen in the last 2 years, and it's diabolical. Let's just say that. And I'm only dealing with Hamilton. You've got to deal with the Auckland super city, and I mean that'll come to pay itself off over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and it'll still be worth something when you're finished.
Yeah, that's what we've got. All the housing project across the road. Eventually, there's homes for 4,500 people. So if I didn't buy it off him, somebody else would. There'd be a hairdresser.
Twice as much by the time they go to sell it.
Yeah,
I'd say you tucked him at $100,000.
Well, no, I still pay rent. So
I've always been perplexed. The Kiwi butcher, I mean, you're a sharp black. We'll go into that shortly. You pride yourself on having Kiwi product in your shop, and yet you're called the Aussie butcher. So can you explain that paradigm for me?
Yep. Well, Keith, the name comes from Keith Oddie, came over here in 1984.
Cool.
And
now, was he a butcher or?
Yep, no, he was a butcher.
Yep.
From Melbourne, and he went out to Otahu, and had a shop out there. And he used to go to the Cosy Club, the Workman's Club or Cosy Club. And when he used to go in there, they used to, be an Aussie, thick accent, still got a thick accent after all these years.
Yeah.
They used to give him a bit of shit, saying, Aussie. So he went, right,
wait.
Yeah, I'll put one up, and he called himself Aussie Butcher.
Now it's a chain, isn't it, though? There's more than one.
Yeah, you got one in Tauranga. I had the Newmarket shop, so I had a little private shop, and heard this Aussie Butcher was coming, and I thought, I'm going to be part of that. So we went up and set the Newmarket shop up.
Now, just because I'm quite ignorant when it comes to meat retail, but was this kind of, I mean, where was the Mad Butcher? Because he's the biggest chain right now, right? Or is he still the biggest, maybe?
No. Yeah,
he's hanging in there anyway, but where was he at the time when Aussie Butcher started?
Probably at about 20.
So he's a big deal still then,
18,
right?
18 to 20, maybe 18 to 20, yeah.
And how many Aussie Butchers are there?
We at the peak we had one in Hamilton, Tauranga, Whangarei, Mount Roskill, Newmarket, Kumeu, Henderson, Botany, and then I bought the New Lynn one. And
so then how many is that? A dozen?
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is it a franchise? Is it a collective? It's a franchise.
Yeah.
And are they still growing the franchise, or is it what's?
No, it's pretty sort of hard. Like we don't have Hamilton. I closed down the Newmarket shop and Wangray. Yeah, they closed down as well. But it's just sort of hard. You know, there's so many supermarkets that are opening now.
Oh
So
yeah,
we're just consolidating. You know, just trying to do it. Just trying to do our areas right. We might get one over in the North Shore one day. But
you know, it's a tough one because supermarkets have very competent butcher sections as well. I've been to
I've come such a long way.
the Pack and Slave out at Hamilton North there. I did a promotion with them, I think it was last year or earlier this year, and they took me out to their butcher shop. I couldn't believe how they were so G'd up to do anything you wanted, and they've got piles and piles of meat. I go to the guy, he's got like, oh, there's your brisket, in the retail, what do they call it, trough. And I was like, well, how much of that do you sell? And he's like, oh, that's our 10th carton today. I'm like, holy crap, it's like, who's buying all this brisket, Because, the typical pitmaster doesn't shop at a Pack and Save or a Countdown. No reason they shouldn't, but they mostly shop with butchers like yourself. And it's like, man, they're so capable, these butchering shops and these supermarkets. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, they were right up there in the sausage competition now. They all start making their own sausages, and they're in the Young Butcher of the Year competition. They quite often win that.
The Butcher Wars is full of their butchers from the supermarket chains.
A lot of those, they're good. A lot of them come from private shops and then go on to the supermarkets. And I mean, they're growing.
There's not. I mean, in Aussie, the supermarket's meat sucks, to be quite frank. And the butcher right outside the supermarket is awesome, right? They have some amazing retail meat guys, but we don't seem to have that massive void between the supermarket chain and the butcher here. And I've often wondered how, how they have the mall, the butcher mall or whatever, the mall and the butcher in the mall. That wouldn't work here, would it? No, nobody's going to go to Sylvia Park to go to the butcher.
No, I think there might only be one now. I think that might be two that are in a mall, I think. And
do you know how they go? I mean, is it rough or?
I think Corey down in Christchurch, the captain of the Sharples, he's got one, and he's just setting up a new shop. It's going to be pretty,
So thanks for explaining the Aussie butcher. I've always been perplexed by that because you seem like such a Kiwi supporter of Kiwi business, and obviously you are a Kiwi business and all that. But there's something going wrong with my mic here. What's going on? It's become very loud for some reason. My point is and then the Aussie boys came over, the Aussie All Stars. I'm still trying to work out who the star was. Was it Dan or Lucas? I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe it was you. And then you got the Aussie Butcher New Lynn supporting the Aussie team. So I thought that was awesome because it was, obviously you're a Kiwi, not an Aussie. But look, I mean, it's all the same. Such a good barbecue community, Trans-Tasman community. So it's awesome. And you've been very heavily involved in the barbecue community since that first Meatstock. I mean, what's been your motivation there?
I suppose I'm just like people. I like pleasing people, and I quite like as long as they like working with me. So it's sort of like when people come in and you're giving these awesome stuff, and to be able to take away Meatstock, or your team gets called up, and whether it's they've got their chicken from us, or they've got their lamb, or whatever it is, or we've done something. So it's pretty cool to be able to go up and sort of see that to do it. It's a pretty hard out to go and do Meatstock though. Like I've done a couple of them now, like been there the whole time, and it's like, man, those boys, they like go as hard. It's a bit like a drag race, really. It's like hard as you can on drinking, and then it's like you either got to cook. Yeah, and it's like pulling your parachute to know when you've got to stop to start cooking, and then sometimes some of them don't pull the parachute at the right time, and some of them, but no, it's pretty. I quite enjoy it, just sort of getting along and sort of doing it. So
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique event. It's definitely, look, I mean, I've cooked it damn near every comp in New Zealand. There's a few that I haven't been to yet, like one in Wellington and one in Christchurch, which I was planning on getting to those this year anyway, but with COVID, it's more than likely going to happen. But my point is there's no bigger stage than Meatstock. It's the one that everybody shows up to, I guess, in force, and everyone brings their A game. So it's a cool event, and having the butcher wars there, I think, is a really cool way of integrating the supply chain into the contest. So can you give us your experience with butcher wars?
Yeah, I've judged it a couple of times and entered it once, came fifth. It's sort of, I struggle with the concept of it, of that they
So
don't have.
for those at home who don't know what we're talking about, can you tell us what butcher wars is in your own words? I know Shannon's shaking his head right now, who organises butcher wars, but he's not here. So can you just give us a recap of what it is? It's obviously a contest, but can you go into some of the detail?
30 minutes to come on. You get half a lamb and a loin of pork. Yeah, half a lamb, loin of pork. And you got 30 minutes to put that into as many or as little cuts as you can, and demonstrate it, garnish it, make it all look pretty, give it all the wow factor, and doing it with speed and precise. In a butcher shop, you've got to use, and in the New Zealand competitions, you've got to use all your products. In Meatstock, they're doing it as a spectator's sort of sport, so they sort of want that whole sort of, you're walking over on shoulder, and it's the wow factor.
It looks great in the videos.
Like, it's awesome up there. But as a business owner, and I struggle to see that somebody can win it with throwing a leg of lamb in the bin underneath and not use it, and they could still win the competition. That's my biggest sort of thing. But on getting up there on the stage, but 30 minutes, you're going like bat out of hell. You're sweating. It's hot in there. You can feel the sweat dripping down your back. And you might have like 50 or 200. God,
mate, I've seen 1,000 people watching it. 2,000 people watching it.
Huge. Yeah. So it's really cool. Like, I enjoy it, and it's sort of good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that, because I mean, if you've seen how much meat and the barbecue sauce and everything else we waste, I mean, it's garbage bins full of it just for one comp. But I guess it's the purpose of the event, and maybe we can clarify with Shannon at some point. I'm sure he'll text me. But the purpose of the event is just to show off the actual butchering skill, not to take into any context in terms of affordability or any of that stuff, which obviously in the low and slow side of things, I mean, there's so much waste. It's not funny. We cook a, like I said, a 12 kilogram brisket. We'll cut it down to 4 kilograms, and then we'll put 7 slices or 8 slices in the box. It's like the most wasteful endeavor you've ever come across. But fortunately, most of that gets used, but there were times where we'd just bin it all. I have seen teams bin it all. But, that leftover meat, that 8 kilograms left, goes into like mince. I mean, we've had burger. I've taken a mincer to a comp, and we minced up everyone's trim and just made burgers. It was awesome. So we've done all that, which is a bit of fun. But Butcher Wars, I went to Churrascada in Brazil last year, and we ran the first Brazilian Butcher Wars, and shout out to Churrascada right there. We're in the camo today. And they did Butcher Wars. And honestly, man, like, I had no idea, because I've always been involved with Meatstock from the low and slow point of view. So I've never seen Butcher Wars. But I had no idea how skilled these butchers are, and just like being able to. And I think Shannon said, look, the normal time you would allow to do something like what they're trying to do is like 2 hours, and they're trying to do it in half an hour.
And that's it. And that's so it is amazing. You see what they put out. It's just, it
blows you away, eh? And some of them, like, wasn't yours the one that had the little Weber barbecue and all that? Wasn't?
Yeah.
I think, you killed it.
Coming out, and it's
So it's a bit of fun. So you come fifth in that, and like any competitor, just blame the judges or whatever. But it's all good. It's a bit of fun,
Oh, it's I was up there not to win it. Really, it was just up there to
support the event.
Yeah, support the event. So
And now you're not a stranger to competition. Can you tell us a little bit about the other kind of competitions that they have around butchering, retail New Zealand butchering meat, whatever you guys call yourself? Just so the competitors can, or people listening can get a bit of a feel for it.
Yeah, so Retail Meat New Zealand, they hold the Young Butcher of the Year competition, and they also hold the Apprentice of the Year competition. The Young Butcher of the Year used to always have to be 30 years and younger. And I'm on the Retail Meat Board as a director there. And I said, well, why don't we open it up and get them to not, just getting this on the screen, that anyone can enter. And they said, well, we'll do that, but you'll have to enter. So I did that year. I entered because they opened it up.
Good man.
Entered 17 and managed to take out the title. So that was.
Now, is it? So what's involved with that? Is it like is it a complex butcher wars or?
So we have 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we might have, what do we have that year? You get a chicken, like a number 20 chicken. I think it was pork loin and maybe rump on the bone, either rump on the bone or something like that. And then in the final, they also threw in a turkey.
Wow.
So you got 2 hours and it's done on complete usage of everything, no wastage. Your bones are clean, you're clean, your hygiene of how you sort of everything is like if you use your knife on chicken, then use it on beef, bang, marks. So it's sort of and that's hard. You cannot
a lot more criteria. Whereas I'm not even sure how they judge butcher wars. I mean, maybe you can tell us how they judge butcher wars.
Yeah.
Is it technical like that, or is it just like, he looks like he's the best?
No, it's definitely technical when you're looking at this sort of bones, but then you're not judging what's under the bench, where we would pull out bones, and if someone hadn't done the plural, say on a lamb flap, they'd just throw in the lamb flap. Well, you're going to lose marks for that.
So highly scrutinised. And what other? So you've won that before, which is congratulations on that, and that's awesome. Now is that the same as Butcher of the Year? Because haven't you been Butcher of the Year?
That's so that was Butcher of the Year. Yeah. And
then there's Young Butcher of the Year, is there?
Yes, yeah. Young Butcher of the Year.
Separate, okay.
So.
And you mentioned the cleanliness and all that. And one of the things in Aussie that blows me away is I went to Paran Market in Melbourne, and they have this guy there called jeepers, the guy forgets my name right now. Someone's Meats, Gary's Meats. Yeah. And Thompson. They have like white shirts and ties on while they're trying to butcher, and they're spotless. Like, how do they? I mean, they're showing off obviously how skilled they are to be able to keep clean. I mean, if barbecuers had a similar standard, I mean, there's a good reason we all wear black, right? Because it's just But it's just, I mean, is that literally it? They're just showing off, look how good we are. We can stay clean while we do our job.
Nice, like there's my guys don't wear that kind of stuff. Like, we're a fairly high volume store, so it's a little bit harder to,
Gary's Meats is definitely a finer meat purveyor.
And that's sort of cool, you got someone that's going in there, and they were, they're getting 2 pieces of eye fillet and, a chipolata for Johnny or whatever. And it's you can able to wear those like little tweed sort of jackets, and it's cool. It looks really good. It's a lot of English styles do that as well, English and Europe.
It felt like a very English way of butchering to me. Just the whole setup, it seemed very, the big old butcher block, and it was cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you ever in Melbourne and you get the chance to go to Gary's Meats, I suggest you head over there. And if you're on Instagram, get up on Gary's Meats on Instagram to see what I'm talking about. I mean, that's a pretty amazing place. And have you been to what's that? Victor Churchill? And
that's cool.
Yeah, so, I mean, a meat man, you must think, wow, look at this place. This is amazing, right?
Yeah, amazing. But he spent more on his floor than I did on setting up my whole expansion of the shop. I think he spent like 300,000.
Yeah, but I mean, you're the suburban butcher, and he's like right in the heart, and he's like the boutique butcher. So it's, I think it's a different value proposition. But there aren't too many butcher shops like his around the world, right?
No, and that's one of the really, really old. If you actually look at the story of that butcher shop, and like it's amazing. Like it is, like it's so cool. You listen to
If you ever get the chance, and get on Victor Churchill's Insta or socials, and if you ever get the chance, now I'm trying to remember, is it in Sydney or Melbourne? Melbourne.
Sydney.
Okay, fuck, man. I've been too many barbecue comps. I can't keep track of them. But if you ever get the chance, no, I'm sure he's in Melbourne too, right? No, okay. Maybe I'm talking out my ass. If you ever get the chance to go to Victor Churchill, you get, believe me, it's worth it, right?
He's got these chefs and butchers that work there, and they make these terrines.
Oh, yeah. You can actually go into the butcher shop and get a brisket sandwich too, or whatever they're making that day. And they got dry aged everything, and just freaking amazing place. And for those of you who like reading, I want to show you something, because I just put my bookcase in behind me. He actually does a book here called Meat. He wrote this book, and the forward in this book's by Anthony Bourdain. And
where did you get that flash cover and all that?
Bro, this one here is what they call a limited edition, Reuben. And this is actually, if you actually open this up, Vic's Meats. If you open this up, you'll see that Anthony has actually signed my copy. Hold on. Tangled up in cords here. Now, is my mic still working? I've unplugged myself. Jeepers, what a disaster. Dear Jared, blah, blah, blah. So this is book number 26 of 100 of these green ones that got printed. See that? Or 132.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right there. Now, don't ask me how much it cost. It was probably close to those briskets that I imported that one time. But, it's a great book. And I haven't read it cover to cover yet, but it's got diagrams and explanations, and the guy knows a ton about meat. So get yourself, now the cheap ones, and they're like $100, so they're not cheap, but the cheap copies of that book are blue. So get yourself a blue one. I don't know if he's got any of these limited. I got 26 because we went to pick our meat up from Anthony. He was kind enough to give us, to organise our meat for us for one of the meat stocks. And I'm sure it was Melbourne. But anyway, he said, "Oh, look, come down and pick it up." And we went to his offices. He's got an office set up, amazing office set up. I mean, the guy's like a perfectionist with everything he does. And he's like, "Hey, I'm launching my book today." It just happened to be like, and a bunch of us went down and we all bought copies of his book. And then he's like, "Oh, we've got limited editions, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "What's the number of that top one over there?" Because he had a big pile of them where he was signing them and writing messages to people who had pre-ordered. And he's like, "Oh, what's the number of the top one there?" And he's like, "Oh, 26. And like, my birthday's 26/10/78. So I was like, "Gotta have it." So anyway, I got the bill a month later. So, but it was worth it.
His podcast is really good.
Oh, really? He does a podcast too on YouTube, or is it on Spotify, or?
I'm on Apple, so I'm just
Apple.
Sort of
okay. So it'll be on Google Podcasts, I'm sure.
Meat. It's he doesn't do it, but somebody does it for him, and
okay,
they get
cool.
farmers. It's really good.
I'd love to. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
cool. So that's a cool little walk down memory lane there, very unplanned. The guys who are listening, this is unscripted, as you can tell. We're just talking meat and barbecue, and we're just here trying to document both my story, but also Reuben's. And now I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that Anthony is famous for is, he does a lot of dry aging. And I noticed when I was in at your butcher shop, there's a little dry age cabinet. So can you explain to us what is dry aging? And then can you explain to us what the concept is by stocking it in your store? Like, where's the value for you as a retailer, and what does it provide for your customers?
Yeah. So traditionally, most meats is done as wet aging, or because it's cryovac as it comes from the wholesalers, the abattoirs, and that's obviously just so it doesn't leak. And it's done in such a way that it can stay like that. Not like when we vacuum pack, we might get 3 weeks, 4 weeks shelf life. When they can do it, they get a couple of months. So that's probably, probably 95, 90. More than that percentage of the steaks that we get in is cryovac, and that's how it's exported all around the world. With doing the dry aging, you're putting it in there, and it's just sort of it's all about the humidity. And I actually got the levels for the humidity from Anthony. He gave them all to me and how to sort of run it. And he said, "Don't worry about the salt. I have salt in the bottom of mine, but they're big, massive." Yeah, he said it's
But
just
it looks, it makes it look good. Yeah.
It looks very cool.
I mean, there's a big dry aging cabinet up in Europe somewhere where the whole thing's made of salt blocks. Have you seen that one? I mean, fuck, bro, it looks unreal.
Yeah. So the dry aging is it's how is it? It's breaking down the muscle tissue. So you go up to 28 days, it pretty much doesn't get any more tender with doing it, and it creates a sort of, you start getting this nutty sort of taste. And if it's done properly, you get a little bit of the blue cheese, but it doesn't go putrid like in Cryovac in the wet, because it's sitting in the blood, where this is sort of evaporating, or not, sort of like just getting drier. So the outside creates this hard crust, and you can sort of like tap on the meat where it's turning, and it sounds like you're just tapping on or a piece of wood. And then you trim that off, and you've got this beautiful, rich meat. When we went overseas, I left a piece hanging in the fridge, and I did 236 days. But that weighed 12 kilos, and by the time we trimmed it all up, we got 2.3 kilos.
Wow.
And the rest was...
Well, that's quite a it's evaporation, right? I mean, it's quite a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, and the bacteria and that, but inside it's sterile, because no air, no bacteria is sort of getting to it. So, and
what motivated you to get a dry aging chiller in your butcher shop? Luke Sini coming down there saying, "You need one, you need one."
No, I'd sort of seen it in Australia. There's heaps, nearly all the butcher shops have got them, and we sort of follow a little bit in their footsteps. So I got one in. The problem is that you lose so much. We don't make money on it. It's more of a theatre thing. But what we're getting a lot of is that, and we just had it the other day, someone came in and they'd sort of picked it up, and they were meant to pick it up pre-lockdown, and they didn't, and then we were locked down. So
got super dry aged.
It was super dry aged, but it was and they did.
But they can go right up to 300. I've seen on YouTube they go 300 days, 400 days.
Yeah, there's that guy that does it, and he tastes all those different pieces.
Yeah, the meat show. I love that show. That dude's a legend. Love that guy. I'd love to meet him one day.
So we just do the main reason that it's for theatre, and it's people can come in. So say you've got your father's, I don't know, some Father's Day or whatever it is, that people go, "Oh, I want a dry aged piece," and we'll put it in there, and they'll pay for it, the original price.
Oh yeah.
I just dry it.
Oh, so you actually offer it as like a free thing that you do for premium cuts or whatever.
It's easier
to see of a man. I had no idea that you did that. I know you're putting people's names on it. But that's totally cool that you could do that, buy a piece of meat, planning for Father's Day or birthday or whatever, and Valentine's Day, as the case may be, and then just come back and get it whenever.
Yep. And then that way you know that you've got this piece, and then you can see that it's okay. We're going to trim it down, and
that's freaking awesome, bro. I love that idea.
That's 90% of all our stuff is sold like that.
And it's good for you because there's obviously a cost to running the cabinet and some risk, but it means you're not tying up capital in stock for freaking 100 days or whatever. I mean, they own it; they're paid for it.
Yeah,
and you're just holding on to it for them in a cabinet.
So
and so is it something? I mean, how long have you been running that fridge for now?
Probably 3 years. Yeah,
and so you're very well ahead of the game because dry aging seems to only have become very popular, I'd say, in the last 12 months. I guess maybe Franklin's book made it popular.
Yeah, it's just quite cool. Like we do like certain bits, like do the tomahawks. You don't want to put something in there fillet because it's so thin and you lose so much.
Yeah.
The dry age rump's so good because that's got so much flavour anyway.
Okay, does a tomahawk with the bone on it's okay?
Yep, it's good. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Because I see short loins all the time in dry age cabinets. Yeah, okay.
About 36 days is pretty good.
Awesome. Well, actually, Luke's just put up he's done some kind of deal, always doing deals, and I seem to fall victim to them, and he seems to fall victim to my deals. But He's just put up cabinets that he's organising a bulk purchase off. I suspect, and Luke, maybe you could confirm this. I suspect, because Luke bought a cabinet maybe a year ago or 6 months ago, I suspect he might have outgrown it, because it was only a little thing, and I looked at it. It's only the size of a Red Bull fridge, and I was like, yeah, no, that's too small for me. So I suspect he's wanting to go bigger on his, because you're tying up that space for 30 days or a year or whatever. So he has organised a group buy and of some cabinets. One of them's, I think, 460 litres, which is the big guy. Yep. And I have put my name on one of those. And cheap, man. Like anyone who's looked at dry aging cabinets, these are like half price. They're a third price. They're really cheap.
Where did he put that up?
Yeah, he's got it in the main group. But you get a hold of him, bro. He's moved from around the corner from you, but. So get a hold of him, because he's taking pre-orders, and I think you pay half the money up front, which is fine. And then they're going to ship them over as a bulk group, and then they're putting New Zealand BBQ Pitmasters and all that on them, just to make them cool. Luke likes to make stuff look cool. So I've put my name on one of those just for I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Probably keep it at work and just put my own stuff in there, or I don't know. But you mentioned the trim. Look, I'm going to give you a little tip, just to make sure no one's here listening. I spent some time with the butcher George back in September. George Asberg, or George, everyone calls him Georgie. Georgie, he with the Weber Kettle Club, and he told me, look, what you do with the trim is you grind that up with your beef and you use that in your burgers. Yep. You just take all the trim and grind it into the patty, or with the patty. And I tried that with my trim, and man, I got to say it was phenomenal, because the skin's, like you said, it's very crusty and barky almost. And the mincer just blitzes through that, and then you get that dry aged flavour through your beef patties. It's frigging good. So
that's what we do. So
well, maybe you're giving me the tip then. Fuck, I thought I knew something there.
No. It's freaking good. You mix it with chuck steak, and you get the fat. That's like the fat on the dry aged beef is just
buttery. Yes, buttery.
Yeah,
it's good. It's really, really good. So that'll be interesting. I suspected that thing wasn't making you any money. So, but I'm glad I understand now how you're leveraging it to work. And guys, people like Reuben who are out there innovating fresh ideas and stuff, they deserve our support. So if you do want to try it and all that, and I've tried it in a regular fridge, but the problem is it stinks the whole fridge out. Yep. You end up with the bacteria right through the whole fridge. So, unless you want everything to taste like that brisket or whatever, or that short loin or whatever. And I've done briskets and I've done short loins, and I've got to say that the briskets have no benefit in terms of cooking them in offsets. But what I was doing was just turning the brisket into ground beef burger. So I'd age the whole brisket. It was like 7 kilos, 8 kilos. Give it 30 days, and then I would grind the whole thing into meat patty, and then turn it. I got a burger press it into patties, and then backpack it and put it in my chiller at home, my fridge at home, freezer at home. And that way, when the missus wants some dry aged burgers, we can bang them out. I don't have to muck around with it, and that worked really well. A lot of work, obviously, but if you love a burger, why not? So that's cool. I think that's a really cool way that you can value add without it costing too much. Obviously, the fridge.
Yeah, well, it's not always easy to say. I mean, you want to make $1, but sometimes you sort of more doing the customer service, and then it's gonna roll into creating dollars rather than just hammering it out there every time.
Well, I don't know of any other butcher that would even offer that. So if I wanted it done, I mean, I'd have to come to someone like you, wouldn't I? So
yeah,
and which is, that's good.
Yeah, so. No, that's good.
Oh, good for you. So now we had the great COVID cook-off during lockdown, and you had a little dabble on the barbecuing side. So can you tell me a little bit? So have you always been a butcher?
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to leave school and became butcher.
And you obviously do barbecue, because I've seen some photos of you on Instagram barbecuing. So, I mean, you must eat a lot of meat being a butcher anyway, so.
Yes, yeah.
So what's your experience barbecuing like from a backyard kind of guy?
I like doing steaks. I just quick and easy, low and slow. I mean, I'll put up some pretty shocking. I put up one of my briskets that I did pretty much like pork belly burnt ends. Pretty much, I did that sort of 50 and walk away and go fishing and I've done some shockers, but I sort of thought the COVID cook-off, thought I'd sort of try and do it, really follow the sort of steps that people had always sort of said. And I think I did all right.
Which category did you cook?
Brisket.
Yeah, and your claim to fame for those guys, well, I'm asking because his claim to fame was he beat me. So, so some big names. What was the comment? Some big names behind me and some in front of me. He was having a good poke at me, and then he tags me, of course. But look, anytime you want to come and go head-to-head against me with a sanctioned comp, I'm your man, bro. We'll go do it, man. One-on-one. Fricking, we can throw it in Meatstock, whatever you want. You want to throw some paper on it, we can do that. No problem.
I haven't got the patience. Man, I like cutting up the meat and putting it on the barbecue, and then I did some short ribs up there.
Do you enjoy eating low and slow barbecue, or is it not for you?
I enjoy a little bit of it, but I'm not a great fan of brisket, I have to say.
Just in terms of the protein itself, or barbecue brisket?
I don't know, just barbecue brisket. I love steak.
Have you had, and this might seem an obvious answer, but have you had a good home-cooked brisket? Or have you only ever had comp brisket?
Oh, no, I mean, I've done brisket myself.
No, but have you ever had someone cook like a home, like if, I don't know, have Rum and Q ever said, hey, we're cooking brisket or Noel and come around and have a slice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because comp brisket, I feel, is very different to home-style brisket, and I actually prefer home-style brisket over comp any day. Yeah,
like when you guys trim everything and do all that square and, sort of pieces, like, ugh. Yeah, but all the front, the real point of it with all the fat and all that, give us a couple of slices. Like Jamie from Fire and Time, I've had his brisket quite a bit.
Cool.
I do like short rib and, better. But, like, I don't have the patience. Like spritzing, I was out there up north and I was cooking short rib, and I haven't got the squirty bottle, so it's just like, I've got some fizzy water. I just like,
that'll work. I mean, when I cooked at a comp once, and no one had a spritzer, like we didn't have one. So what you do is you just get whatever you're spritzing, whether it's Coke or cider vinegar or whatever, you just twist the lid off so that it's still on but leaking. And you just dribble it all over it. I mean, it's just adding moisture. I mean, spritzer, the only thing is it can disturb your rub, which, I mean, if you're eating a home meal, who cares? So that's why we use the misters. But you know what? I don't even, I can't even remember the last time I spritzed. I don't even spritz at comps. So little insight there, guys at home. We never spritz at comps. I feel like it delays the setting of the bark. And if you delay the setting of the bark, then you can't wrap it. I'm hot and fast, so I want to be wrapping that thing as soon as I can. And if I'm spritzing it, then I am slowing down that process, which I'm not about that. I'm about hot and fast. So that's cool. And that was your daughter just popped in to say goodnight. So appreciate that, and appreciate you giving up your Sunday night to do this little chat. So congratulations on your result at COVID. That was good. My brisket was. I found I feel like the score was well justified. So I'm not bitter at all about it. It was a lot of fun to do. Thank you, Derek. And it helped keep that passion for barbecue alive for me, man. I was frothing, and still am. I'm frothing to do a comp. We're actually having a mini comp this weekend. So hopefully I'll do better than last year. But yeah, it was, it's good. So what barbecues do you have at home then? Like, what are you cooking on, a Weber or?
Up at the beach I got a Weber kettle, and then I've got a Weber gasser, which bacon eggs, and then down here I used to have a GMG, but I sold it because I felt that it was going to fall apart.
Right.
But I did love that.
Set and forget. Too easy.
Yeah. And I bought the latest Weber kettle, Master Touch, and I've got a Pro Q as well. So
how's the Master Touch different from the standard one?
It has that deflection plate, so it has like a round grill down the bottom, and then you put the deflection plate. And I fill it.
It means sort of like a ceramic egg with the baffling.
Yeah. So it's just a stainless steel. So I just put charcoal. And then, so it's you're indirect. for you.
So is it a lot of shagging around to add more fuel? You got to get gutted and then put it all back in?
No, it's not. I mean, I just did an eye fillet on Friday, and it was good. I just took it off and then just sort of No, it was.
Well, I'll tell
easy.
you what, I'm going to get Laura on from Weber, and we're going to have a good conversation about Weber's products and their theory and their success and all that. Sounds cool. So do you rate the new One Touch? What do you call it? The One Touch? Master Touch. Do you rate it? Good barbecue?
Like, when customers come in and say, "Oh, should I be looking at?" I just like, but just get yourself a kettle, whether it's a Weber, whether it's a Chug, whatever it is. I reckon you've got to have for hot and fast. And
you got to have a Weber. I mean, if you don't have a Weber, are you even a barbecuer? I mean, I don't think so. So,
and then I still want to get another, whether it's a Traeger or Weber. Weber bring out a pellet just for my whole set and forget.
Are you not like a Yoda pellet? I mean, they really make the premium heavy duty.
Yeah, I'd look at Yoda. Yeah. So I was like, yeah.
Can you hook them up? I mean, hey, let me tell you, Reuben, Yoda ain't listening to this. Sorry, man, I can't hook you up. No, that's cool. I've looked at pellet grills, and look, I'm not. I mean, I've made a bit of fun of Adam Roberts because he cooks on them. That's more making fun of him than the barbecue. And you know what? Use whatever tool you want, man. Just bring your best game and give us the best result that you can. I don't care how you cook it.
You look at Daniel and
Dan Barrett, Daniel, cooking on pellets.
Yeah.
I think Lucas is cooking on. I think I've seen a pellet grill on his site recently.
Yeah,
I know he's cooking on drums now, but I think he had a pellet grill for just set and forget. Seems like a lot of guys are using the old. I mean, they're just using it like a wood-fired oven. It's just basically it's a wood-fired oven, but the digital system on it makes it easy. Just turn the temperature dial and away it goes. So nothing to manage. So I can see that. Once everything's wrapped, who really cares, right? It's just a wood.
I mean, you probably hook your Fisher and Paykel oven up at home.
It's no different, man. It's just one's electric, one's wood powered. I mean, it's just a heat source once you wrap the brisket or wrap the ribs or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you like cooking steak. So have you done any SCA judging or done any SCA cooking at all?
I haven't. Not the sort. I've been there while the guys are doing it on.
And if you were to give your advice to the guy who's at home or whatever, what's your favorite cut of steak, and what's your go-to method for cooking that favorite cut?
My favorite cut would, I mean, I Wakanui. I bring Wakanui. I mean, I own a butcher shop, so I can.
Okay, we're going to talk about Wakanui next, but what cut of Wakanui then?
So, like, you got like Scotch fillet, cube roll, or ribeye, however you call it, and you got the end. So this bit here, when the knife goes through, it separates that with the sirloin, and the other end joins onto the chuck, and that's the end that's all sort of bitsy. So it's got what do you call it? Muscle that goes.
Spinalis. Yep.
So it sort of looks like you've nearly got 3 spinaluses down the end. I love that bit.
Yeah, Johan Brendan Rasma, he rates that end of it too. The chuck end of the ribeye is his favourite.
I find the meat, it's more like a sirloin. If you get the bit right in the middle, then yeah. And I'll bring a steak home and I'll cut the spinalis off the kids and the wife, and I'll give them the nice round bit like that because they don't want all the fat. And then
Right. Huh. That's funny. I should do that at my house. We've actually been eating a lot of sirloin, New York strip lately. One of my buddies got me some, and just fuck, man, I don't even rate sirloin, but I've been cooking it as a whole sirloin, and tell you, man, it's phenomenally flavored. It's just so good. But I guess mine would be skirt, man. I love a skirt.
Oh yeah,
you can't beat that marbling and just the texture of it, and I mean, it's skinny steak, so you have to take that into account. But man, a good skirt, if you can cook a good skirt, man, you'll have me there.
Have you had so that sirloin, was it like the pure self or the Greenlee?
No, it was imported.
Oh, imported.
It was a sort of a like having Fitz in our team. We often get test products to say, hey, what's your feedback on that? Is that something you'd buy in the restaurant? Is that something you'd buy as a consumer? And is it something you'd use as a barbecue team? So we can kind of deliver all those feedbacks from one team. And so he brought in some, what was it? It was like Well, they market. It's out of Australia. It's from Tees, and they he on the carton it's New York strip. Now you can maybe clarify for this: is New York strip and sirloin the same deal? Is it one end of the sirloin, or is it just two names for the same thing?
Well, the thing you like in New Zealand, we're very much just sirloin and Scotch fillet. You go to America or Australia, and they've got the different terminologies where it's down one end is porterhouse, in sirloin, or different bits like that.
Because there's that's what I found anyway. On the carton it said New York strip, so I looked that up on the interwebs and it said it was part of the sirloin muscle, so it's like good enough sirloin. But I cooked it just hanging off my porch. I mean, I did a little video and just hang it from some chain and cook it for about 5 hours until medium rare. It was phenomenally good, just so intense, the flavour. Somehow the flavour just seeps right through that whole muscle, and having the fat cap, just you don't get interfered with. I feel like with the ribeye, you have those very three distinct areas of it, whereas you get a more consistency across the whole steak with the sirloin. You know, I just hate contending with that fat cap on a grill, and but hanging it's phenomenal. Believe me, you'll beat your brains out if you tried it.
Cooking a whole sirloin, I love like that, and you get you can cross the fat, and you get that and you can get the medium rare right through and reverse searing it right through. Where with the Scotch, you're always going to have that bit of fat and
the knob.
It's just a little bit. Some people love it, but I mean, I love beef fat if it's got a little bit of singe and all that on it.
Yeah, I can do it if it's rendered, but that just doesn't. I mean, if you render it, it's overdone, right? So it just always tastes like a blob of jelly in your mouth. Yeah. It's got no texture to it. So right now, I'm a skirt man right now, but I'd say, I mean, my opinion of sirloin's changed in the last 6 months. Yeah. But I've always traditionally been a ribeye guy. So what's your favourite way of cooking the thing?
Just in the barbecue, getting more into the trying to do the reverse sort of searing.
And are you a rare or a medium rare?
Medium rare, and even like more rare to medium. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know a lot of butchers like the rare, and man, I couldn't believe when I was in South America just how rare they like it. Like they're 130, which is like mooing. Yeah. And I cooked up some steak for a Brazilian guy, and the Australians were like, "That's flipping raw, bro." And I was like, "Hey, bro, how's your steak?" And he's like, "Oh, it's perfect." I was like, "Yeah, look, I didn't say it wasn't raw, but that's how he likes it." So it wasn't blue, but it was just frack. It was like on the edge, right? So so in terms of sponsoring teams and working with teams, I guess I called them a bunch of crybabies at the start, but I didn't mean that. What I meant was that they can be a bit diva-ish. Can you explain to me where the value is? Like if I'm a barbecue team, I'm foiled again is my team name, and I'm looking for Aussie Butcher Newland to sponsor me. Can you sort of talk to me about what that looks like for you, what your opinions are? Because it's daunting for a lot of teams to feel like they need sponsors to help them work. But I mean, where's the value for you as a butcher shop or any kind of barbecue business? Because you're obviously one part of it. Like I could get a foil sponsor and a rub sponsor and a sauce. But what I'm saying is, as a new barbecue team foiled again, which I got from Sterling Smith, how would I approach my butcher? What's in it for you? Can you just explain that relationship?
Like, to be perfectly honest, for me, that ship sailed now.
Okay, so can you tell me why it sailed? And can you explain where the downside become too much downside for you?
Like when we first came on, and I was sort of like sponsoring, we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 teams and like Meatstocks. And
just for the guys at home, I'm not actually looking for a sponsor, but I just want to play the new team role.
And so we had our started, and I was doing a lot of supplying or cutting margin. People come to us and I say, yeah, okay, I'll give you that brisket, and and we had one of our worst years that we've ever had in probably 10 years in profit wise. And when it came down to it, I just went, we'll get a fine. It was 1%. That's all we had to find. It's on our turnover that made a difference. So we found that 1%, and
you've got a face appearing in a nice steak in the background.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll throw something at them. And then it was just sort of, I thought, hang on a minute. We sort of worked with a lot of guys and we sort of came, but now, and I've stuck with Rum and Q and Medic Smoke, and but even now it's getting to it. People know who I am, and like we'll give our best to. Like we probably still do Meatstock. We probably still did about probably a dozen teams, and I'll sort of look after them. I always sort of, if they're getting the whole lot, we'll do it. But it's sort of the value now is not. Like we've got the products and we'll sell the products and we'll give every single team the best. Like whether it's getting a measuring tape out and cutting the lamb shanks to 120 mils so they fit in the boxes and doing all this, like we'll do all of it. Like you can come in, you can choose your brisket and all of that, and that's all sort of fine. But it's I wouldn't be looking at any more sponsorship and things like that. So that's.
Now, is this because you feel like every barbecue knows you anyway? I mean, if I'm the crazy butcher, not the mad butcher, but let's say I'm the crazy butcher, Hamilton or Tauranga or whatever, and I got a team who's going, hey, we want to be sponsored, and you hook us up, and we'll get you out there. I mean, is there any value there at all?
I know. Well, if you look at all the butchers that have come on board with different people, and some of these big ones like Neat Meat, they were sponsoring guys. Where are they now? Nowhere. They don't do, they've come into the market after me, left. Gourmet Direct, come in, sponsors and teams, left.
Yeah.
Matthias, I mean, they still do some, but not really, because they came in, wholesale meat. They came in pretty hard. They've gone now. Me and Andrew from Botany, he still does, a couple other Aussie butchers, and and there's different shops that do them. But the reality is, like, I love fishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I say to them now. So their hobby is barbecue competition. So let's say I wanted to enter, they come to me and it's like they get all some meat and then they go to heat bits, and heat bits drops off them pellets, and then they go to some booze place, like I'm just going to drink free booze the whole weekend. Right, done. And then they say it's a beach and boat fishing competition. It used to be the biggest fishing competition that there was, Fruno. If you go and do that for a weekend, it's $1,500. I don't pull up to someone's house and say, hey, can I have $300 worth of gas? I've like some free salt ice, some free, some mullet. I need like a whole heap of new line. I don't do that. So I sort of look at it as that if you're going to do barbecue competition as your hobby, because that's what it is a hobby, then why should everyone else have to pay for your hobby?
Yeah, okay, that's interesting way that you view it. So just speaking on behalf of the business, because I guess I'll point out some flaws in your argument, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Because obviously I'm just, thinking the different options through, and I totally get it. I mean, I run a barbecue business and I don't sponsor any teams, so there you go. That tells you where I think the value is. But anyway, you've got one fishing, I think, is the biggest recreational sport in New Zealand. So naturally, you've got I don't know, 1 million fishers.
Yeah,
people fishing.
Yeah.
So I guess my argument would be when you've got that many fishermen, like soccer players out of South America, you're only interested in the top 0.1%, right? So my argument would be, well, I mean, take Rum and Q, for example. Great team, have grand championed at the Epic Brewing, have successfully commercialized their rub products. So to me, I'd say they're in the top 0.1% of their game, right? If you took all barbecuing in terms of maybe not even just competition, just all barbecuing as a recreational activity, Rum and Q would be in the 0.1%. So I guess while your argument makes no sense for Jimmy up the road there, for Matt Melville and Tracy Melville, who have actually the cream of the cream, being associated with the best in the business has some value. However, if nobody knows who those people are, like only me and you know them, then, and barbecue is still a largely unknown sport. Like if I pulled the average customer out of Texas Pete's and said, name one barbecue team, they probably couldn't do it. Like, they'd be like, Texas Pete's team? No, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not like basketball where everybody knows the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan or whatever, right? So I think and I don't think it ever will be that, right? Competitive food. And I guess this has been one of my things for teams at home always, and for myself, I've been very fortunate to have some great sponsors and who have helped along the way, and I'm very fortunate that I happen to be extremely passionate about barbecue and have let it slowly take over my whole life, including what I do for work. And so obviously I can self-sponsor and some of those other things that perhaps aren't available to other teams. But at the end of the day, a business who's going to give you effectively money, because you have to buy whatever they're taking anyway, they want to know what's in it for me, right? So I give you a brisket. Okay, well, what do I get back? Okay, well, I'm going to put up photos on social media. Okay, well, how many people are going to see those photos? Are those people in Auckland? Are they near New Lynn? Are they, what are the purchasing habits, or what are the influence? How many customers? And a lot of teams couldn't actually answer those questions, right? And a photo on the internet of a brisket is worth nothing. But if you've got, I don't know, if you've got 5,000 people that follow you, okay, now we can talk about some value.
Yeah.
But if it's just like me and my mates getting pissed on the weekend, and here's a photo of the brisket, then, there's not much value there. So my advice to any team who's getting out there trying to find some sponsorship, because it is a very expensive hobby, as Reuben points out, it is a hobby, even though, well, it's a sport really, but anyway, it's done purely for recreation. Bring the value and show me what I get back for my sponsorship, because last time I checked, my wife didn't want me to give away money.
I tell you what, like another one, it was sort of, I suppose if you're a smaller sort of place and you're sort of trying to come up, like I'd have to say, like, having all those barbecue teams and doing, and then, like I've got Johnny Boyd that comes down and, he gets all his meat, or it's sort of, when people sort of like come in and trim, like if you were to come into your butcher shop and actually like trim your brisket, right? So you trimmed it in the shop, like comp style, then all that product that we can actually still use, because as you say, you get those massive briskets, and whether it's like, let's say it's a 5 or 6 kilo wakanui, and you trim that down to your 3 kilos in my shop, not outside.
3, not that much.
Yeah. But like, if you do that, then we can actually use that product, so then it doesn't cost as much, if you know what I mean.
You're limiting. Yeah, well, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that's
brilliant, because I know a lot of guys out there would love to use a commercial, like kitchen bandsaw or whatever. And, if you've got a cooperative butcher who's like, yeah, well, I mean, the best would be just to teach you how to do it and say, this is what I'm looking for. But we'll pause on that. But you're right. Like if I've got like 2 kilos, 2.5 kilos of there's a lot of value there that's being discarded, right? So, and even pork butts, pork trim, like we're cutting, we're only cooking Scotchies these days, because we want to focus on the tubes and the money muscle. But I mean, there's a lot of a Boston butt. There's a lot of meat there that's not used.
I think there was probably like, you sort of, when you go along to these comps and you like, your eyes are just like going, like, what do you mean like giving you 4 kilos and you're like putting 150 grams on there, and now you're taking all that home and eating that? Like, I'm not supplying meat for the competition. I'm ending up supplying meat so you can eat it for the next 6 weeks at home.
That's funny. You're right. I never eat any of the barbecue. I don't think I've ever taken any of our barbecue home, but obviously I see a lot of barbecue, so it's kind of lost its appeal for me. But I would think a good way of approaching a butcher would be like, look, we're going to cook all that, but look, you can have all the trim back, or we can do it at the shop so you can resell it. And any barbecue left over from the comp, I'm willing to drop it off for your staff or you or whatever.
You do that, like, Matt and Derek, they do that. Man, my staff love it. Like,
come on, Derek, get in there and get in some barbecue, bro.
So like, they'll come down and they'll give us meat in a vacuum packet. And I mean, they'll just zap the microwave and just hoover it away. So it's
beautiful.
It's yeah,
well, that's cool.
I think
I think you've done. I think the reality is, I guess what I'm trying to advocate for is there is some value there, But I think gone are the days where butchers are like. I think butchers have wised up to the fact that they don't get much back for what they and you know, I don't have a butcher sponsor. I mean, we are one of the top teams in the league in terms of competition, and we don't have a meat butcher butcher sponsor because you know, like I personally wanted the flexibility, but you know, like it's you know, it's everyone's trying to make a living, and you know,
Well,
like how much can you ask for someone? Hey, I want
yeah.
$6,000 worth of meat a year, you know, or whatever it is.
And I think that's the thing. There's more and more competitions now, and it gets pretty, yeah, it's pretty hard. And like, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there, and whether they call them, I don't know, I don't use it, GCs or whatever the hell they say, and all this, and
Grand champions, you mean?
yeah, no, I'm not doing ground, like, you know, well, yeah. But like it's there's a lot of arrogant people out there, and the butchers, like, we're just like, a lot of them just don't want to have a bar of it. As I say, they'd rather look after Mrs. Jones that's going to come in every single week and get
Sure.
something, rather than someone that comes in 3 times a year or 6 times a year, and they'll come in for something. But I mean, it's just working. I enjoy working. Don't get me wrong. I'll always be there, and I'll enjoy it. And it's coming around. My biggest thing is probably the wholesale guys that supply me. That then they go and supply butcher shops. They should be coming to me, and I say it like I do have words for them. If they were to supply me a product that I can supply more better barbecue, some brisket from Australia at a sort of price or cheaper, so it looks like it's coming from me, not from.
It's on the retail side. Well, it makes
Yeah,
no point. I mean, if I said to you, "Oh, look, I've been sponsored by Wakanui,"
yeah,
well, unless you're part of their nationwide marketing campaign, like I've done work with Gilmore's, right?
yeah,
And they're a North Island business, and they've got freaking whatever 7 branches. So my marketing went out on all channels to a much wider audience, even though the invoice was sent to Hamilton Gilmore's, but paid by head office, right?
yeah.
So I think it depends, but most guys are just going to their local and saying, "Hey, can we get some brisket for free or whatever? Can you sponsor us?" Well, you know, and you know, again, it comes back to the value proposition. I've always seen the big picture of it because obviously I run a barbecue business, and I've always made sure that there's disproportionate value on my side before I go asking for anything from anyone else. And
Yeah.
I've got sponsors in Australia that, in fact, I'm expecting a barbecue any day now that I didn't even ask for it. They sent me over because they know what kind of, I'm going to tinker away with it and probably pull it to bits. And I'll probably, you know, and at the end of the day, I'll provide value for them across the Tasman. They don't even sell the product in New Zealand. So, you know, what I'm saying is it's definitely a quid pro quo type deal where there has to be value for both parties. And I think obvious value for like a butcher. Where's the obvious value for me?
Yeah.
Now, if I can come down to Reuben's and say, "Hey, Reuben, we're going to do we're going to do a campaign to do the more better sausage, whatever, and this is going to be our recipe. We're going to work with you, and we're going to put it out on our channels, and we've got 6,000 people that'll be exposed to it, and blah blah blah." I think you could see the benefit in that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
hey, can I have some free brisket?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything there for me.
It's so tight now. Like, just running a bit. Anyone that runs a business, it's like, you know, it's especially after this whole COVID thing, and you know, it's yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's hard out there for any business, but I think it's finding how you can do value. Whether you're coming down and doing like a barbecue class or something like this. We've done a few of those with Meat Mafia and then Noel, and I mean, he's been a massive supporter of me as well and pushes everything out. And that sort of works. And there's sort of, you know, there's all this, as long as it's a good swings and roundabouts, and there's always some pushing. Because if it's only one person on one end pushing, then it's a pretty stink time to play.
Yeah, and I think also, like, I mean, you've definitely done more than your fair share of helping teams, right? And it is worthwhile developing other butcher resources around the country, right? It's not just all on Reuben, the butcher's ready shoulders, you know. Now, definitely, when my Aussie friends come over and say, "Where can I get this or that?" I'm always point them to you. And I don't know Yeah, I'm not sure even if they ever showed up or
Oh,
whatever.
no.
I'm not saying like I made you rich or anything, but I always definitely you're my go-to because I don't buy meat in Auckland, so I wouldn't know. And I know that they can go down there and ask for this or that, and you'll know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's like, I mean, it seemed like, this meat stock or one of the other competitions, it was just chicken. Like everyone just wanted bonus skinless chicken thigh, skin on chicken thighs. It was like they couldn't get it from anywhere else. I couldn't understand it. But like so many teams just for that.
Flipping meat
And
stock. We had to drive all over Auckland looking for thighs.
yeah, it's like
I don't know. I think the thighs we got were rubbish for some reason. And then Fitzy spent all day Saturday driving around Auckland trying to find thighs. I should have just sent them to your place. There you go.
which are double. I mean, they've like, I've got to look at it tomorrow because the price has gone up again. I've got an email saying,
yeah, look, guys, we're look at the date on this recording. I don't even know. It's like early June.
Yeah.
I tell you right now, meat prices are skyrocketing in this country, and both me and Reuben buy reasonable quantities for us, and obviously a ton for you. Man, the price of meat is just going ridiculous right now, man, and it's probably up. What would you say over 18 months ago? I'd say it's up 30%
on
some cuts.
it's
Not on chicken, I don't think. Like we had that whole chicken problem a while back, but like on pork and beef, holy cow, bro! I'm going to be put out of a business shortly.
Yeah, like it's whole cuts and stuff like for mincing and things like that. That's just, and that's all going to America. That's what it is. It's all going overseas. Whole cuts again. Like we're to buy top sides. Top sides or knuckles. So really only good for diced beef or a roast is more expensive to buy in than rump steak. Like, go figure. It's crazy.
Well, it's because it seems like with the apocalypse nigh with COVID-19, everybody started eating mince for some reason. Now, obviously, mince is versatile, but I mean, I would never choose mince over a steak. So it just seems bizarre that, like, all the mince cuts. Like, I know companies who are just mincing everything in sight, right? Because they're like they're taking cuts that, like you said, roast cuts, briskets, mincing them all because people have just gone mad on mince because that seems to be the doomsday cut of choice.
Yeah. Yep.
And it is versatile, so I'll give you that. But mince, man, come on.
Pre-lockdown, like the last week leading up to the lockdown, I've never sold the volume of meat. Like our mincer didn't stop. It was criminal. I was saying, I bought all these pointy briskets. That's all I could get, and I was like drop them, bang them through. 15 cartons of and then people were coming and going, man, that mince is really good. I'm like, yeah,
it should be.
That was like premium. Like,
brisket has a great ratio of fat to muscle. Like if you mince the whole pointy end, it's about perfect.
Yeah, we've got.
I think topside and I think chuck and brisket have to be like my choice for mince anyway.
Yeah, we're doing a Rosier Burgers, Dion.
Yeah.
In there, burger mince now.
Shout out to Dion.
Yeah, for his smash burgers, and it's just chuck and brisket.
I tell you what, well, at Texas Pete's, it's I'm with you because before COVID, we'd sell a range of whatever chicken and briskets, and it was quite probably proportionately equal across all categories. Like I would say that maybe a little bit less chicken maybe than the beef and pork. Now we sell we're like Texas Pete's burger bar now. It's like everybody's gone mad on burgers again. Yeah. Which I mean, the burger is a complete meal and all that. Like it's perfect food, but it's still just a burger. Like it's it's just.
But you can't beat a good burger though.
Yeah, you can't. Favorite burger in Auckland, Reuben?
I have to say, like I do like Burger.
Right.
Like, but I haven't.
Now they're in Ponsonby, right? Is that the one in Ponsonby? Yeah, no, I rate them. I had a burger up there a few years back. It was pretty good.
Dion's, just simple, like just a normal
meat, cheese and bread.
Mashed, like you can't. I mean, also like a steak, like cook a Scotch fillet and then slice it up and just put that in your burger.
Now, who does the best steak in Auckland that you have regularly? Like, man, the steakhouse seems to be a dying thing.
Oh,
like we've got Smith and Mackenzie's in Hamilton, which is a great steakhouse. And then we've got Lone Star, like that. If you can, I mean, I guess it's a steakhouse, Lone Star, but you know what I mean. It's like a more volume focused place. But I mean, it's hard to find a half decent steak in this town.
It's probably like you go to like last steak place I went to was Duvois Steakhouse, and we're sitting there and just a group of guys, and I thought, looking at the menu, and it's like Wakanui, and it's like $55 for a.
And you're like, I know what they're paying for that.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's why I go down a menu. I always do that. Work out what one are they going to make less money on. That's what I order.
That's crazy.
I never
order.
order.
You make me laugh.
Or fish or pasta. I point blank.
Oh. No.
This is cheeky hot wings.
But you're a fisherman, so you know the cost of harvesting fish.
Yeah, I know. But yeah. Anyway, so we're looking at this menu, and I'm like, I thought, right, I'll try that Carrara. It was just after Meatstock actually, and I'll try that Carrara sirloin. They had it was like $95.
Holy cow, bro! I'm gonna become a butcher. Afford that.
I was like
$95 for a steak.
I thought I won't have I'll just order that, and then it's like it came out, and it was like, man, it was the biggest. It was just thin, because it was like big diameter.
Yeah, I'm not. Nah, it's got to be thick to get medium rare. Otherwise, you're just freaking
on steak.
It's just schnitzel.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're breeding these beef that are giving you those 12-kilo briskets. Their sirloins are so massive, for you to actually have a like a decent steak, you pretty much just need half a steak. So, but yeah, but that was pretty. But More Pork Barbecue went there the other week, and we just ordered their big platter, and he actually Clint sent out a sirloin, and I think it was ebony or no, what it was. It was good though, man. It was.
Look, I'd trust Clint to cook me a steak any day. Like I didn't know he has steak on his menu. I didn't even know he had a grill, but I would trust Clint with a steak in his hands any day of the week. I'm sure he would produce a phenomenal steak. I was over at the Jack earlier. I was there last year, and the rep like one of the product managers for Snake River Farms, which in America there's only I think 5 pure Wagyu farms, and Snake River Farms, I think there's only 3 of them actually. Well, they're one of the first to get set up. Sorry about my audio there. It's on auto adjust. So anyway, she bought some tenderloin, and I'm not a fan of tenderloin. Like, it's too lean for me. But man, the boys cook those up, and these guys are like world champion barbecuers cooking their steak, right? Like, this is Tuffy, and this is Chet, and those guys who are like 3-time world. These guys know a piece of meat. I gotta say, it was the best piece of meat I've ever eaten. It was just, man, and it was marbled up, man. That tenderloin, like, it was bin Wagyu. It was marbled up big time. So it was phenomenally good. Speaking of Wakanui, like, can you explain to the punters at home, because we seem to have Wakanui like was everywhere on everyone's lips sort of 2 years ago, and now you can't barely ever hear of them or get their product. Now, for those at home, Wakanui is from they come off a feed pad in the South Island, only feed pad in New Zealand, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And it's a brand. It's part of, what do they call themselves? What's the
Ensco Foods.
Ensco, that's it. And they have ocean beef and Wakanui beef. And so, can you explain why it is that you can get Wakanui, but no one else in the whole country seems to be able to get it?
6 letters, Reuben. No, I probably started selling it like probably about 7 years ago. They sort of came and we sort of built it up, took so much pressure. And then, as you say, 2 years ago, they sort of flooded the market with it. And it was getting it's like everyone could do it. You go into your supermarket and get it.
Oh, look, yeah, I mean, yeah, everyone was cooking it. Fuck, yeah. Everyone was cooking it.
It sort of I got really brushed off with it. I sort of said, hey, come on, guys, I've been pushing this. Now you're sort of saying I can't get it.
Yeah.
But then
so were you one of the early people involved with retailing that product?
Yeah, me and Neat Meat. Like, Neat Meat had the first, and then we probably came on as second.
Okay, cool.
And Neat Meat still, they have their agreement. They still get it. And I'll sort of work in with them sometimes and do a bit of swapping. But we just because it's Angus beef, fresh beef. I think it's Angus. Most beef in New Zealand's Angus. And then it goes onto the feedlot for 75 to 90 days.
Yeah.
So you've got the rich.
I think Wakanui is less than ocean beef, right?
Ocean beef is 120 to 150.
Yeah.
Which, as a steak, I feel that it loses its
intensity.
It's great. It goes very, very tender.
Yeah.
But doesn't have the flavour. It's lost its grass.
Yeah, but you gotta, like, this one thing I didn't understand, and just to add to that, what Reuben's saying is, in New Zealand we like a really beefy, almost like a wild game. Like if beef was pork, we would all, the rest of the world's all eating farmed pork, and we're eating wild pork, like in terms of flavour profile. In New Zealand, because of the grass feeding, which is not most countries don't grass feed their beef because they don't have the grass supply that we have in New Zealand. Like we're one of the few countries that just can purely grass feed animals.
So in America, it's 5% that's grass fed.
Yeah. So we get a really, what the world would consider a really gamey flavour to our beef, which certain markets love it, right? But hence why Reuben's saying that when you're grain finished, you lose some of that intensity, which I 100% agree. I've eaten enough of it now where I can pick up the flavour straight away, and I could taste the brisket and tell you whether it was grain finished or not. You can tell.
But they used to, so they were killing on Wakanui, it used to be maybe over 100 a week. And it has now gone down to 96 a fortnight.
Oh, wow. That's a big drop.
96 a fortnight. That's, put this in terms of, that's
half.
That's 180 briskets, right? A fortnight. 4 briskets in a carton. That's 45 cartons. So that's a lot of briskets. So some of these, I don't know how many briskets you're saying you're going through. 20 odd.
Yeah, I'm buying by the pellet load. So
smoking teas, how many's in like?
Oh, frick! I mean, he's going through all of them. That's why no one can get any outside of fucking Christchurch.
And then
you're all going in his barbecue.
And then you got Blue Ox. How many? I don't know. So when you look at all these people wanting these briskets, well, then it's just left with all this other meat. And
so why is but I mean, they're not, obviously there's better cuts on the animal than briskets, but why have they dropped why are they doing so little? Why has it gone so small?
I just say to them, like, you're saying you can't sell it. Why don't put more on? Like, they don't even.
I mean, they've got farmers growing beef. I mean,
yeah. I don't understand. I just say to them, like, they say, oh, we can't produce enough. I said, well, produce more. Like,
I don't know, and it's none of my business, obviously, and I'm just guessing, but I suspect that feedlot runs at a loss. So it's not economical in New Zealand to feed animals with feed when we've got grass growing everywhere. So
we don't. I don't think we grow enough grain. You've got a lot more hairy fairies running around saying that they don't want that.
Well, they had that big. I mean, they had that big expose on the Ansco feedlot down there, which, I don't see the problem with it. The animal's not like in a prison; it's just in a regular. I mean, if you go to these feedlots, all the animals are standing around the feedlots by choice because they know that there's abundant food, right? So, I wouldn't move if someone kept bringing me food. I'd just sit here.
It's the same as
It's not inhumane, is what I'm saying. Like at cows, people associate getting into the politics of it all, but people put human emotions into an animal. An animal just cares about a few things: food and water, and a couple other things beyond that, and it's freaking happy, right? And if you give it an abundant food source, it'll just keep eating, and why move? It's just like, bring the food to me.
Yeah.
So they're not. I didn't feel like and there are genuinely some animal abuse cases, and I'm not trying to belittle those, but Ansco look after their animals. I mean, those animals are happy down there.
Yeah. But I mean, Google McDonald's feedlots, man.
Bro, standing in their own crap.
From a helicopter, you can't even see the end of it. Like, you fly. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you're still getting Wakanui briskets or not?
Yeah. No, we've got
so I know where to get one of those from. And what I mean, Is Ocean Beef run the same course? I mean, that was big. I mean, they're amazing briskets. So,
like Christmas time and before lockdown and that, I couldn't get Wakanui and I could only get Ocean. So
right.
I've got both at the moment. Got some heap Ocean, got Ocean short rib, and then sometimes just the normal. Like when I was running these briskets through for Dion, I opened up this box and just the grass fed, and it's got Riverland's brisket, and this one weighed like 8 kilos, like 8.5 kilos. Just
yeah, I don't mind Riverland's briskets actually. Look, I mean, I'm a big fan of the consistency of grain feeding. But those Riverland's briskets, I've had some good ones out of those.
And they do some awesome short ribs, man, and like just massive. Yeah.
I mean, Meatstock, we had those big tomahawks the size of your arm. I mean, I don't know how many times I've looked at those to try and make them work in the restaurant, but they just, I mean, yeah, they have to look at it and say it's a marketing expense rather than trying to sell it as an actual retail menu item. It's just ridiculous. But
Salt Bay, you know.
Yeah, Bay.
You look up how much he charges for those tomahawks. Is it like $500?
Yeah, well, come on. I mean, the guys. I mean, yeah, you should see how much Tiger Woods charges for a private lesson. I mean, the guy's pretty popular. You know, I mean, I don't. Yeah, he's good at marketing. Let's put him that way. He's good at marketing, and anytime you come across someone good at marketing, they're going to charge you a lefty to be able to be involved.
I tell you what I find amazing is some of his, I follow him on Instagram, and when he's walking through some of, like, it's part of his restaurant, and he has this dry age, and it's like he's walking through a surgical center. Like, it is so clean, and everything is so, like, it's quite amazing. I'd like to go and see where he like has all that meat, and it's like where it's part of the restaurant, or they've got all the gear there. Like,
well, bro, he's charging $500 for a steak. Of course, he's got all the gear. Yeah. He's got a. Look, I mean, we've tried to get him out to Meatstock actually, but he's too expensive. Yeah, bro. I mean, look, I love Big Mo. I love Big Mo as much as anyone, and actually, my son's named Kaysen after Big Mo, so that's how much I love Big Mo. But at the end of the day, bro, Salt Bay has way broader appeal than Big Mo or whoever, right? Like, that guy has millions of people following him on Instagram.
Oh, like, phenomenal.
Yeah. So no disrespect to Big Mo or Tuffy or to any of those guys. But this guy's, I mean, he's made a freaking name for himself doing that, bro. I mean, come on.
But it's also the people, like he's talking about, I'm just trying to think of his name, when the big Brazilian guy, what's his... You would have seen him. He was in Butcher Wars. He's come over here for Butcher Wars. And
I don't know any of those butchers. Oh, are you talking not Daniel?
No.
Barbecue. No, I don't know any of those butchers.
So there's anyway, one of them is like, he's got well over 100, I think he's got 160,000 followers on his Instagram. But that's because he's in these countries that have got so many people.
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, New Zealand, bro, you could have everyone following you, wouldn't even be, you know, like 5 million people. Woo, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like, not to belittle it. It's a different paradigm, man. And you got to. I mean, I did a big, I don't know, high value production with Jay last year where we did the Churrascada Festival, and that's getting about 10,000 views a week right now for some reason.
Really?
On YouTube, yeah. If you search, yesterday, if you type barbecue into research, into YouTube search, BBQ, it came up as a top video, right?
Awesome.
So it was really, for some reason, the algorithm or whatever. Now, it's like a 25-minute long clip, so it's not a short commitment. It's not like 2 minutes of Salt Bay or whatever. But I mean, it's got a bit of momentum, but it's still only 150,000 views on YouTube. I mean, some of these videos these guys make go to millions and millions and millions of views, right? So,
yeah.
So if Salt Bay came to you, Reuben, and said, "Hey, bro, I'm looking at getting a sponsor, would you?"
Thing, he can't speak English, so yeah.
Well, mate, what's the future of butchering in New Zealand look like? If you were to make a couple of predictions before, we're going to wrap things up here, but if you're going to make a couple of predictions about the future of, you know, butchering from a barbecue perspective, I mean, I think you're going to keep making 30 sausages, 30
I
different
think
types of sausages, but what do you see barbecue happening? And I mean, from your side of the
on
window?
butchery, like before you go, like if you talk on the whole of butchery, for me, how I sort of see it is consistency and simplicity. It's sort of, and with having we just throw in like in Australia and around the world, you've got a lot of these ready meat meals, and we sort of looked at trying to do that, but New Zealanders are still like same thing online. We're still just like shopping. We like to come in and pick up a steak and sort of choose your sort of steak and things. But for barbecue wise, I think it's the whole low and slow is still sort of starting. I mean, we'll put it this: I went down to pick up my son works in the butcher shop on a Sunday, so I went down to pick him up at 5:30, and this customer came up. Or Josh came up. Oh, can you help this customer? He wants to cook it, and he actually came up. This is nowhere. He had a whole brisket, first was it pure self brisket, and came up and he goes, oh, so I'm just got some guys coming around, got teams on it, and they want to cook and doing it. I said, well, like, how are you going to cook this? And he goes, oh, I'm just going to throw it. It looks like a great slab. I'm going to throw it in the barbecue. I was like, what kind of barbecue have you got? And he goes, oh, just, big barbecue. And I was like, okay, what kind? Gas, charcoal? And he goes, oh, gas barbecue. I said, and what did you do? He goes, oh, I'm just going to cut this into steaks. I was like, no. And we'll take
Okay,
this.
son.
Yeah, I'm not going to even explain the low and slow barbecue to you. So I said, okay, we'll go down here. I sold him a whole sirloin, $55 on special. And it's still the understanding, like I had to tell him the temperatures and tell him how to cook it on a gas barbecue, put your burners on the side on, put the plate in the middle, let it sort of, and then sort of, where I sort of see it is it's still such a small thing, but it is going to start carry on growing. And it's not so much easy to say the barbecue teams, and I can sort of say, oh, that ship sailed. It's probably a bad, not really nice thing to sort of say. I think it's the start of it. Like it is sort of, it's like the ocean around the world yacht route. You got the America's Cup, which sort of hard and fast, and everyone's sort of up there, and you got the pinnacle people of the people that were there in 2017, and that some sort of faded away, some are sort of doing things. But I think the barbecue scene is sort of just starting. It's still getting people to understand, and where it's doing classes or like yourself, you've got people. I guarantee that I don't know if you do it already, but if you were to do a barbecue class to some of your patrons that come in.
Oh yeah, we do them. Yeah.
I think charging like some of them charging like an arm and a leg. I think you got to add a bit more value to that than just $200 to listen about.
Well, let me tell you, Reuben, I 100% agree with what you just said because, and I'll back that up with evidence because at Texas Pete's we offer classes when I can find time to do them, and so we don't run them like all the time. They're like, I mean, last year I would have run 4 or 5, and my point is my mic. Sorry, guys, I've got a new mic and it's on auto, so it keeps going up and down. But I fear if I adjust it, it's going to screw the video.
Not going up and down.
Okay, maybe I'm just hearing it in my booms or whatever going flat. Anyway, we offer the class and $65 including lunch, bro. I mean, that's what you call a good value class. It's a 4-hour class. And, I just, look, there's different motivations for guys, Look, I believe I'm worth more than $65 for a class. But at the end of the day, my self-esteem can go to one side and my desire to spread the barbecue gospel comes into the fray. And I prefer to give more exposure to more people faster, and charging $300 for a class is not going to do that. So we do, $65 to $70 depending on the cost of doing the class, because some of those classes can get expensive to put on. And, it includes lunch and a beer. So, I mean, it's pretty good value. And I've probably taught barbecue, like at Texas Pete's, for example, hundreds. So, and stay in touch. And we have a little Facebook group where they show me their cooks and, answer questions. And So I think that's where it needs to go. Is there going to be room for a $200 class in the future? Yeah, I think there is. But once you've got a lot of people barbecuing and wanting to know how to do things, and shout out to Noel for putting all that information on the internet, and Matt Flanagan with Mile Marker, and Brendan, and anyone else who's putting videos up, because it all helps build momentum for our hobby / businesses, butchering. It all just lifts the tide slowly, and all of the boats in the tide get lifted with it. But I agree with you, man. It's got a long way to go still. We're only just scratching the surface. But I mean, I think in terms of a festival like Meatstock, I think we have probably reached somewhere near the top of where that can go in terms of just the public consumption for it, and the entertainment value. I mean, we put on a big Meatstock. Jay and the team put on a huge Meatstock this year. I mean, like nothing that's ever happened in New Zealand before. And, frick, bro, it's still hard trying to sell a $35 ticket to it, And it's like, well,
Like people ask me, and should I, thinking of going there with guys, and it's like, it's so hard, because I know it's the whole festival. I said, like, do you want to go there and listen to some music, walk around, buy some barbecue? I said it's a festival, so you're going to pay $35 if this, and then you're going to go in. Don't know the prices, because these guys are just really making money on the, they're not winning like lotto on it, So you are gonna sink $150 on a day, really, if you're gonna go there and eat and drink and buy a t-shirt. Or you could have your mini meat stock at home and getting sort of understanding.
Come to Reuben's and buy some meat and have your own. I love it.
I think I love it, and I'll always go and I'll always support it. But I think people go there. I don't know what they go there expecting. They don't. Yeah.
I don't know either. I mean, people will read the comments after, and it's just like, oh, I had to wait in line. Well, you got freaking 6,000 people there. I mean, of course there's a bloody line.
Mind you, with this whole COVID thing, I think people are used to waiting in line. You waited in line to get into Pack and Save to buy your can of baked beans or your flour that wasn't there.
Mince. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, it is funny. I mean, I went to a festival where they just had all you could eat, and you pay, I don't know, I think it was $150, $200, and it had all you can drink and all you can eat. And bro, fucking awesome festival. So they had teeny little portions. It was only 100-gram portions, but you just lined up and freaking knock yourself out, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to be able to do something like that here, but it'd be just an administrative nightmare. I mean, you'd have to have food licensing on every single site, and the alcohol law wouldn't permit you to just give away booze. And now, we've got to charge for booze, and it's just a nightmare to try and administrate. But it did work, and I guess I'd love to see. I mean, they had Burning Lamb, which was something similar, and he stopped doing Burning Lamb, so it obviously didn't work economics-wise. I don't know. I mean, do you know anything about that?
No, I haven't even heard of Burning Lamb.
Burning Lamb's Al Brown. Al Brown, the chef.
Yeah.
He did a lamb festival every year that you basically catch, because to stop the activists, they would catch a bus from freaking the shop or whatever, and they didn't even know where they were going. And they would take him out to like the backs of Auckland somewhere, and they would have all these Argentine crosses set up with cooking, and you just basically go and have some drinks and just enjoy the hospitality. And it was very visual, and Al Brown's a very creative chef and very, very hands-on with ingredients, and it was cool. But he stopped running it. I mean, last year he stopped running it, so he actually come to Meatstock. So I don't know. And typically things like that stop going is because the economics no longer work. So
yeah. Well, I think just going back, say you be wrapping this up for the butchers.
Look, I don't care. I mean, if someone's still listening, good.
Yeah, going into your local butcher and just getting an understanding, and just sort of don't go in there and hitting hard, fast sort of questions. Sort of suss them out and work with them, and just sort of explain to him. Go in with an image. Don't just go in and think that he should know what a Boston butter or some kind of different skirt. Actually, go in with the image.
You have imported Wagyu briskets. I'm after a 9+.
Yeah, and I only pay $10 a kilo. But get that. do your research first as well. Like, sort of, so you go in and it's like whether it's the Devon steak, and it's like, well, actually it's this cut from the chuck, because the cow, doesn't matter what country it's cut up in, it all has the same cuts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's those big South African steaks, like the one Clint cooked for Mo of whatever that girl, Competitive Vita. I mean, I didn't know you could even get a steak like that off an animal, but I think they said it was 5 muscles or something through the rump by the time you cut it out of there.
So, like South Africa, they used to cut those, on this side cross section. So it's just you cut the rump off the hindquarter, and then you're left with the butt, and then you just run so it has that would have the top side, the silver side, and the thick flank, which you cut your schnitzel from.
Now, I actually tried to buy one of those in Hamilton, and of course, there's not many butchers breaking down whole animals like that anymore in Hamilton. But fuck, bro, I went to South African shop and they couldn't even explain what it was. They were just like, "Oh, it's from the hindquarter. You cut just straight through everything." And I'm like, "Well, okay." If I go into a butcher and say, "Cut straight through everything," I'm literally going to get, So, so did you actually supply that steak for that Competitive Vita?
No, I don't know where you got that from.
It's a big mother, bro. It was like, I mean, I wish I had the technology to be able to insert a picture here. But anyway, I don't have a Jamie, but it was a big thing. And actually, if you search barbecue steak in Google, it'll come up in the results, Clint holding that steak. It's like indexed on the first page. It's amazing. But no, that's cool that you gave advice to like just calm down a bit and go and see what you can learn from your butcher rather than go and try and teach your butcher something.
And as they message us on Facebook, I'll answer and point you in the direction. And if you're in, and we can even ship stuff some places. So
south of the Bombays.
Yeah, I'll ship it anywhere.
All right, good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, mate, huge shout out to you. Like, I just, I can't say enough about how much on behalf of Competitive Barbecue as a competitor and a team and whatever else you want to call me, appreciate the support that you have been one of the few butchers that have just stuck with it. And I don't know if this is just your nature or what, but you just have supported barbecue and just barbecuers, and whether you're just giving advice or making a special sausage or whatever. Just love what you're doing and appreciate it. And you've always supported Meatstock, and it's great to have you involved in that. And we hope to see a best sausage in New Zealand awards at some point. Yeah.
And I think we're going to be getting on board with the SCA, doing that sort of, maybe supplying some steaks and that for that. So
all right. Well, so if you're in anywhere near Auckland or west of Auckland, you need to really head down to Lynn and check out his butcher shop. Pop in and say hi. He particularly likes it if you stop his whole business to say hi to him. Like, stop every staff in there to find Reuben and get him out from the back. He has to unrobe and gloves off and whatever else, and come and shake your hand and say hi. And then now he can go back to work and actually make a living.
And then you can do hashtag I know Reuben. So.
Yeah, and nobody else should be calling him Uncle Reuben. That's reserved for me and family. And I'm looking for you to head south of the Bombays one of these days, and you just give me a text and we'll get a burger in front of you.
Well, we don't get now, so it's a lot quicker.
Well, let's do it. We've got the new expressway. So shout out to Reuben, Aussie Butcher New Lynn. Thanks for having you on the show. And guys, if you could go ahead and subscribe. We've got about 6 new subscribers since the last episode. And welcome those new 6 subscribers. I think that puts us up to about 50-something. Hey, I'm loving it. And thanks, Reuben, for your time. And I hope and wish you well in your endeavours, and hope to be seeing you barbecuing in the future.
Will do. Cheers.